separate the Spartanburg Vikings and the Gaffney Indians tonight. They renew their old-time Palmetto State rivalry. We welcome you back to Viking Stadium in Spartanburg, where we are ready for tonight's coin toss. The Vikings taking the field. The Indians just dumping out onto the field a moment ago. And our coin toss tonight brought to you by Childers Heating and Air. Tom, it is about that time.
Well, you must have driven that a number of times to know that it's exactly 22 minutes.
Once or twice. I live almost on that county line.
The long and winding road, right?
The Childers Heating and Air coin toss. The Indians, obviously the visitors here in their all whites, will have the call, in the Vikings in those traditional, those memorable home blues with everything trimmed up in gold on both sides, and everything being explained for our Childers Heating and Air coin toss. But so much history. Just looking at those two uniforms out there, you're reminded of how much history there is between these two schools, and they really are, even though it's high school football, two premier programs in this state.
It's incredible what they've accomplished over the years. If you go back to 1950, they played almost every single year since then. Didn't play last year because of COVID and some situations there, but glad to get it back this year.
So Gaffney wins the toss. The Indians opting to defer. That means the Spartanburg Vikings will have the first crack at it offensively.
Well, it's going to be really interesting because of the conversation that you had with Mark Hodge and what their situation is at quarterback tonight. So we'll see if they can get something going on the offensive side. And you know, if you're Gaffney, you want to see if you can get them out and get your new quarterback in there. So I think it's going to be a great night for high school football. And even though it isn't a region game, we talked about that, the realignment that occurred last year, and didn't get a chance to play in the last 16 games. Gaffney's 112 up.
Crowd from the land of the Indians over there, having made the trip over. Doesn't matter where they're playing, whether it's at the place they affectionately call the reservation or elsewhere around the state, they fill it up, and you can see that on the far side. One of the things you notice right away, the last time we were here, size of crowd somewhat limited. It's good to see the fans able to work their way back in here tonight.
Yeah, it is. You know, last year South Carolina teams got to play, and we do a lot of North Carolina games as well, and they didn't get to play until the spring, other than Christ School was a private school up in North Carolina, won the state championship. So when we talked to those North Carolina coaches, and they're a little bit envious of the fact you could play in South Carolina last year. So it's a different situation. There's still, you know, you have to be aware of the health situation, but you know what? It's great that fans can come back in and watch the game, because you and I did a lot of games with not many fans.
That's why it feels like it hasn't been that long since we had football. There was a spring season this go-round. We'll see how the players will turn around from that in a variety of locations. The Indians now, Tom, you alluded to it, they are a part of Region 3 5A, a little east of their usual and historic location in Region 2 5A, which is where the Spartanburg Vikings still sit. So no, this is not a playoff impacting win tonight, but it is an important win tonight. It would be a benchmark victory for the young Spartanburg program, and it would be a reminder to the Gaffney faithful that the Indians, though they lost so many of the key pieces last year, are planning to roll right on here in 2021.
Yeah, it is, and these two teams are going to get after it. They didn't get a chance to play last year. We talked about they played almost every single year, and as you mentioned, only 17 miles apart. Everybody knows everybody, and looking forward to a great call tonight and a great season here on My40 again this year. Glad to be with you.
Dan Jones says, I'd rather have played him last year before Mark Hodge had another year to put his system in. These two know one another well, these coaches, these schools, and here they go again. Football is back in the Palmetto State with a return to the 19-yard line, and that is where the Spartanburg Vikings will take over after the return of a young man we expect to call his name a whole lot tonight, Andrew Denton, one of the key new pieces for this Spartanburg crew. This is a team that Mark Hodge termed it this way. He said, here's a team that will now come to us understanding the system and explain to us what last year we were trying to communicate to them. But he's doing it with a different look behind center tonight. Raheem Jeter is one of the premier talents in the entire state, and he's unavailable after a little banged up in preseason, so it is Garrett Fulmer who is getting the nod. And before he takes his first snap, we get flags as there's contact right up there in Dre Sims territory, the center for the Spartanburg Vikings. It's going to be offsides against the Indians, so while they walk that off, let's give you a look at the Spartanburg offense. Here's the surrounding cast for Garrett Fulmer.
Well, you mentioned Dre Sims. He's a captain up front, 5'9", 305, a senior. You'll anchor that line. They're big up front as well. Then you got Richardson, Staggs, in addition to Danton, as you mentioned. They've got some perimeter playmakers they'd like to get the ball to today.
So Fulmer now taking his time, and he'll move Carter to his left side. And turned to give the back where he initially was. So that'll turn into nothing for Spartanburg, covered up by the Gaffney defense. Leading the Indians to the charge was Philip Wade, a senior linebacker. Let's look at the group alongside Philip Wade for the Gaffney Indians defensively.
Yeah, you look at 3 down linemen, and you got 4 linebackers. They are good. Landon Bullock, the senior at 205. J.D. Dowdle, 5'11", 190, 53 tackles a year ago. And you move into the secondary, led by the free safety Eddie Tate McDowell. They are big and good in the secondary as well. That back 7, very good.
You're going to see a lot of this early, Tom. Some penalty flags here and there. We had a shift this go around. Going to be 2nd down and about 9 once they sort it all out. Early season jitters. That's certainly the case. And you think about how in many ways these athletes separated from one another until just a few weeks ago. Causes things like this from time to time. That snap over the head of Fulmer. He's going to fall on it at the 2-yard line. And Spartanburg, in the blink of an eye, backed up into the shadow of its own goal line.
Yeah, not a chance there at all for Fulmer, but he did the right thing there. A lot of times you might try to pick it up and you might not get it. You'd run into ball, bounce, spring, and it's a touchdown. So get on the football. You know, nothing fancy. Try to get a couple of yards here and kick it out of there.
So 3rd and a mile, the 29-yard line. That's what the Vikings need as their junior quarterback stands in his own end zone, right on that R in Spartanburg. Weighing his options, and a little short on the pass over the middle, far hash. It's incomplete, 4th down, and the Vikings will just like that kick it away from their own end zone. If there's good news here, it is John Love is a good option for them in the special teams department. He handles all the kicking and punting duties, and he's backed up against the end line in that end zone.
Yeah, he does it all. He could be one of the factors in the game, and if you have a young man like that, kickoff, punting, and can do it all, he can be a big factor in the game. He'll need to get a good one here, though.
Drawing ACC attention. Virginia Tech on the horizon for John Love, and he gets a solid bounce. In fact, that's off the fingertips of the Indian return man, who will bring it back to the 45. That is about all for Caliber Huey on the return for Gaffney. He's one of the number of new Gaffney wide receivers you'll see across the course of this evening. A 50-yard punt, 6 on the return for Gaffney, and they're led by a new quarterback as well. Grayson Loftus, who transferred from Blue Ridge High School, is out to lead the Indians this go round. Let's check in with Maryland as Gaffney sets up shop offensively for the first time.
Well, while the Spartanburg offense is here on the sideline, resting after that first drive, Mark Hodge's message to his quarterback who's stepping in was just calm down. You've got to take a breath here. Meanwhile, this biggest liability for the Vikings, or concern, question mark really, was this secondary. Hodge eager to see how this defense will do. He said he's ready to learn what his young players on both sides of the ball, quarterback and in the secondary, will do today.
Gaffney's first play from scrimmage this season, a positive gain. In fact, a Franklin Financial first down. Thank you, Maryland. Is set up at the 41 of the Vikings. Just like that, the Indians in Viking territory. They'll try and use that speed on the perimeter. You know it, these young Gaffney receivers. And there's one, not just speed, also muscle, as Gaffney's Tyler Smith out of the backfield gets the job done once more.
Yeah, able to flip it out there to Smith, and he's got that speed, turns it up the corner, gets a good gain, and he delivers a blow himself there at the end of the run. And you know, he's going to be one of the principals, Jason, on offense for this Gaffney team. We talked about Loftus, the quarterback that's coming in. Smith can do it all. And then you've got big guys up front led by the right guard, Sawyer Whitman, a Citadel commit, and a lot of perimeter players that we saw early in the game, much like this team from Spartanburg, can get it done offensively.
And it's time to give off right side, lunging forward to around the 20-yard line. That's about all that's going to be available for Ken Littlejohn, as we call Ken Littlejohn's name out of the backfield for the first time. He's the halfback. Here's a Spartanburg defensive alignment. It really begins and ends with Judah McGimpsey. He is the leader on the defensive side of the ball.
You got 3 down linemen. You got Murph Epps at 351, the nose guard. McGimpsey with a 74 tackles a year ago. And into the secondary, another captain is J.D. Lawson, 5'10", 181, a senior with 53 tackles. He'll anchor that secondary.
Another dose of Ken Littlejohn, and he's inside the 10-yard line for Gaffney. So for Grayson Loftus, they're settling him into his new role as the Indian quarterback by giving him plenty of options to turn and hand to. In this case, it's Ken Littlejohn, and it is another Franklin Financial first down.
Well, and that offensive line for Gaffney is really big, really strong, and that they are going to be able to pave the way. And we'll get into Loftus, what he did at Blue Ridge, and his ability to throw the football as well. So quite the combination there that they're going to have offensively.
What will the Indians do with the first Franklin Financial first down play? They're going to turn and give right up the middle. This one's smothered up, and Spartanburg will turn it away after a minimal gain on first and goal. All right, let's talk Grayson Loftus. A completely different look and feel than Andre Lindsey, who was the 3-year starting quarterback for the Gaffney Indians. He had the wheels, Tom, all that athletic ability to beat you outside the pocket when necessary. They talk about Grayson Loftus as a true pocket passer. We'll see that across the course of the evening, no doubt, but right now we're seeing how many weapons he has to turn to.
And you saw the graphic there, 6'4", great size, 210, only a junior.
And here he goes to the skies. Tried to connect with Caliber Huey over there. Huey, the junior, on the far side alongside the junior Deshaun Corey, the junior Amazon Littlejohn, or excuse me, the sophomore, I should say, Amazon Littlejohn, a host of other juniors, and the senior Jadarius Littlejohn, who is the lone senior in the wide receiving corps. Those are the weapons through the skies, along with Ken Littlejohn and Tyler Smith, who you've already seen on the ground. If those sound like new names, they are. They are gaining their experience for the Gaffney Indians as we speak. That's what we mean when we talk about these young teams. Third down to the skies again, just out of the reach of Caliber Huey.
Really good pressure coming off the edge. Wanted to throw it a little bit before he was ready to let it go. So that was an outstanding defensive play to force the situation into a kicking game.
An outstanding defensive series right here for Spartanburg right now. They're forced to fourth down for Gaffney. And both these teams with outstanding kickers, they're both comfortable at least from the 20-yard line in. And we've heard that both these kickers have the potential to hit it even from beyond the 30-yard line if it came down to that situation. This one's going to be what you would consider somewhat of a chip shot, 24 yards, well inside the 20 for A.J. Haynes. And Haynes, who has been in that position for a while for Gaffney, punches it right through the senior kicker. Puts the Indians on the board. So Gaffney uses its opening possession to take a 3-0 lead on Bojangles' Friday night rivals. It's Friday night. That means it's Bo time. The new Bo's Chicken Sandwich, hand-breaded, bold, seasoned, and Big League Crunchy. It'll make you say, that's so good. Try the new Bo's Chicken Sandwich for just $3.99, only at Bojangles. It's Bo time. Well, they brought the
hard hats.
Yep, they're ready to go. No, a lot of hard work needs to be done for both these teams tonight. One of the reasons there's heavy lifting to be done, Tom, so many of those pieces you might have expected, so many of those pieces you're accustomed to, not back. For Spartanburg, they are without their starting quarterback, Raheem Jeter, who they feel like he's going to be in good shape to go the majority of the season. Just a bit precautionary with him tonight. It's August after all, right? And for the Gaffney Indians, as Spartanburg gets ready to go back to work offensively, there is one noticeable absence. He's in Athens these days at the University of Georgia. South Carolina's Mr. Football from a year ago. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins no longer anchoring that Gaffney defensive line. We'll see who can step up on that side of the ball for Gaffney as Spartanburg goes back to work offensively.
Speaking of Ingram, 31 tackles last year, which may not seem like that much, but, they ran away from him all the time. 60 16.5 tackle for losses. Shows you why he's one of the great players in South Carolina.
And remember, we didn't play the number of games last year all across these states that you're accustomed to either. Things limited, as most of it was region and not much beyond a season ago. First down for the Vikings. Here is Garrett Fulmer once again. Not working from the shadow of his goal line. Has to feel pretty good for Fulmer after the way that first series went. But first series jitters gone. He turns and hands off, and just a couple of yards. Tom, how many schools have the luxury when their main arm is out, when their field general has to take a seat, to turn to another Division I prospect? He's a D1 baseball product, Garrett Fulmer. They expect him to play at the next level on the diamond.
Yeah, we talk about the athletic ability of a lot of these young men, the versatility, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure tonight because with Raheem Jeter coming back, a little different. Obviously, Jeter 6'3", 236, and a junior coming off an outstanding season a year ago, 105 yards per game, and he also was on the ground able to carry the football. Not a lot of experience here. So when you visit with Mark Hodge, though, you ask, are going to be many changes? What are you going to do? And he said, we're going to do the same thing.
Said, tried to stress to their role players this week that it doesn't really matter who's throwing the football at you. Your job doesn't change. Those were the words of Mark Hodge. Get everyone to take care of their business and focus on their role. They did it on this play. This is enough for a First Franklin Financial first down.
Watch that catch. Tremendous by Jay Staggs. 5'4", 138, the senior. It was behind him. Had to slam on the brakes. Almost went to bended knee. He was a factor last year with 14 catches for 103 yards.
Well, this time looking as if he may tuck it. He does. And tried to get back to the line of scrimmage. There is some running ability there, even if this was closed up pretty nicely by Landon Bullock, the senior for the Gaffney Indians. We were told this about Garrett Fulmer as he gets ready to line the Vikings up on second down. And you see the first time he really takes it himself here. They say he plays like a linebacker at the quarterback position. I can't wait to see that as the night progresses.
Well, he had an outstanding play there in view of what Landon Bullock, 5'11", 205, the senior, could do, coming backside unblocked and made a nice open field tackle.
Tried to set up the screen, but it is snuffed out by Marquise Bradley, another one of those Gaffney seniors. Marquise Bradley, Coach Dan Jones said, I coached his dad,
really,
who eventually went on to be a standout at Western Carolina University. Ties to our broadcast area there in Cullowhee. He said he's our most experienced corner. Number 3 showed you why he gets that kind of praise right there.
I'll tell you what, they are big in that secondary at 210, 180, 195, and 170, and they can tackle. Come get you.
Here comes that Gaffney defense, able to dump it off into the grasp of Carter, but just across the 30, and that's all. So the Gaffney D for a second possession, able to limit the options of Garrett Fulmer and company, and here is John Love to kick it away once again.
And Jason, we saw J.D. Dowdle make that play, 5'11", 190, the senior, leading tackler coming back.
This is blocked. Able to get in there and get a hand on it, Eddie Tate McDowell, and it has fallen on at the 44-yard line. So Gaffney with enough push to get Eddie Tate McDowell in there for the block. And the Indians will have it at the 44-yard line when they sort it all out. Well, tonight, a big night for the two coaches. You see Dan Jones on the very left of your screen there a moment ago. He's 2 wins away from 100 in his career. Actually, it looks like we're going to take another look at this punt instead at this juncture. Let's take a look at Eddie Tate McDowell getting in there for the disruption. There it was, Tom.
Able to come off that backside, got a hand on it.
Get into those coaching storylines in a moment when we see them again. Here comes the first down play. To the 40, make it the 39, and that's about all. Just going to mention Dan Jones sitting at 98 wins during his Gaffney tenure, and for Mark Hodge tonight on the Spartanburg side of things, he's sitting on 99. So this is either going to be Mark Hodge's 100th win as a head coach in the state of South Carolina, or it's going to be Dan Jones putting them both at 99 apiece.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
With a victory here. They've certainly made their mark in this state. Rushed out of bounds at around the 35-yard line is Grayson Loftus. And we'll say this about both those guys. The first thing they did was deflect and say, you know what? it's all about the people around us. They've got two outstanding coaching staffs dialing up these plays we're seeing tonight, Tom.
Boy, they really do, and I'm sure on the Gaffney sideline, and you visited with them as well, a lot of ties with the community. And then Mark Hodge has been able to bring many of the coaches that were highly successful with him from Chapman over here to begin installing the successful program that he had there.
2 state championships, played for 3 there at Chapman. Here's some room for Gaffney's Tyler Smith. He's down the far side to the 15-yard line. That's going to be a first Franklin Financial first down. And the Gaffney Indians are back in the red zone.
Free safety Mike Hardis at 5'9", 141, a junior, finally made the tackle. If they get into the secondary, this was a concern for Coach Hodge. His secondary not very big, and difficulty of trying to bring down somebody like Tyler Smith at 6 feet 200.
So 1st and 10 for the Gaffney Indians as they're set up on the 15. Gaffney settled for a field goal after starting with excellent field position to begin things a little bit ago. It's going to stay inside that left tackle, and a little more room for Ken Littlejohn. Of course, the offensive coordinator of the Gaffney Indians is Donnie Littlejohn. We ask about relations of everybody.
Yes.
You know that family has been such an impact family in Gaffney, South Carolina, Gaffney High School for ages. And here's what Dan Jones said. He said, whichever one's playing the best, that's the one Donnie claims is his kin. So the offensive coordinator of the Indians certainly pleased with what he's seeing so far from Ken Littlejohn. And boy, so many familiar names. You think about that on both sides. Little toss out. Goes back to Tyler Smith. Smith with just a couple there. You look up and down both these rosters, Tom, and you think about the last names, the first names of these players. It's a trip down memory lane of all the state championships that have been secured by these two schools. And these are, both coaches told us, they're the sons. They're in many cases the grandsons, the nephews, and the cousins of all those who brought championship glory to this region of the state over the years.
Boy, the expectations, you know, Thanksgiving dinner or holiday get-togethers, you know, hey, you know, in 1973 we were able to beat Spartanburg.
And it may be more than that. Here's my ring. Go get you one. How about that?
Yes.
Here's a little toss inside on the screen. Well designed, well executed. Gaffney touchdown for Caliber Huey. He's into the end zone with the first touchdown of our 2021 fall Friday Night Rivals season.
Little bubble screen there coming across, set it up. Block, look at that block out on the edge. And I mean, that was a tremendous block by the left tackle, Hunter Turner, at 6'4", 260. And then after he gets a hold of the football, he knows what to do with it. He takes it in at 5'11", 165, the junior.
The left-footed A.J. Haynes. Set to try and knock the extra point through. Flags down before he can do so. Motion against Gaffney, so they'll retry. A 9-0 lead for the Indians. Grayson Loftus leading them on the first touchdown drive of the year. Loftus, who transferred in from Blue Ridge High School, making the jump to 5A. Coaching staff said, yeah, the players he's throwing to, they're going to move a little faster, but so are the defenders. We'll see how he handles it. So far, so good for the young Gaffney QB. And his left-footed kicker, A.J. Haynes, punches this through to make it a 10-0 lead early for Gaffney. Vikings looking to answer on the other side of the break. You're watching Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. Well, the scoring started with a field goal tonight. Gaffney's now added a touchdown for a 10-0 lead. A reminder, the field goal challenge is in effect. That's the Ingalls Markets field goal challenge. For every field goal in this game, Ingalls donates $100 to the boys and girls clubs. Good luck to all the athletes and teams playing tonight from Ingalls Markets, where your savings say something. Well, the fans enjoying high school football back on this Friday night in August here in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is, what do they call it? Valhalla, right? You look around this place, this somewhat brand new campus of the Spartanburg Vikings. It's everything you could dream of as a high school kid. Can you imagine? You look across this fine football facility, you think about what's going on with the building of the new high school here, just a tremendous place to play. And right now it's the Indians, though, that are loving it, Tom. This Gaffney team balanced a year ago. They scored 31 touchdowns a season ago. 16 of them were scored on the ground. 15 of them were scored through the air. So it might not come as a surprise that the yardage pretty even for Gaffney. 51 rushing yards, 40 passing yards for the Indians, and a 10-0 lead for the crew from Cherokee County. And here's some room, all kind of it, right across that Palmetto logo, and still moving is Jay Staggs, loose into Gaffney territory at the 43-yard line.
He returned some last year, got a chance to do that, and if we see the end of this there, what he did fundamentally, he moved the football from his right hand to his left hand so that if he's hit on the sideline, it's going to be knocked out of bounds and won't lose it. You'll see some good blocks along the way and almost tackled, but makes a escape there and then comes up. He'll change hands. There he goes up the sideline. Nicely done. And this becomes a big series for this Spartanburg football team right now down 10-0.
100%. That was 45 yards for Staggs on the return. He caught that up a bit, and he has his crew in business at the Gaffney 43. So for the first time, Spartanburg having crossed that Viking logo. And the Indians with 3 down. Going to find out if they can get the same pressure that they have with Spartanburg in its own territory. A little different result here. Vikings to the ground. Carter again. And the junior running back will move the chains. That's enough for a First Franklin Financial first down.
Boy, they need to be able to do that. Keep it away from Gaffney. They did a great job to force a field goal the first time that Gaffney had the football, but we've seen the versatility now, the run of the pass, as you mentioned, with Gaffney. So Spartanburg standpoint, good job there. It looked like he might get hit in the backfield, but able to break away and get a good game.
Back to Carter. And Dre Carter down around the 26-yard line. So Spartanburg with a head of steam. You get the feeling they understood the urgency you underscored related to this drive, Tom.
Well, again, you're limited to a certain extent. I know Coach Hodge told you they're going to try to do the same thing that did with Raheem Jeter, but with the experience of Jeter versus Fulmer, have some success and placed in a situation where maybe you can make a decision to do some different things.
On second down and 5, Carter, and he cannot get the corner. The Indians there may have turned that into a couple of yards, which was pretty good work for Carter. It looked sealed off completely, and he's able to salvage something out of it to create a 3rd and about 3.
Yeah, Javier Watson come from the backside, little quick pitch that time, try to get the blockers out in front, and it was a really good job there by Watson to fight off that block and then come up from the rear and make the tackle. Got some help from one of his teammates there as well.
So now Garrett Fulmer in that 3rd down and 3 scenario. He needs to cross the Gaffney 21-yard line on what is a key drive for the Vikings nearing the end of the first period. Ends up moving Carter to his left. He'll rush across the line and is near 1st down yardage. We'll see where they spot this as he lunged forward. From where they're initially placing it, it looks to be a bit short. 4th and inches coming for Spartanburg. Decision-making time for this Spartanburg offense. And here comes John Love, who is good from anywhere inside the 30. He's going to be standing right about the 30. So they like him from, that would be, 47 on a field goal top. So that's a pretty good range. This well within his range for the future Hokie, perhaps. Blacksburg watching very closely as he puts a foot into it, and it is blocked by Gaffney. Rattles around a bit and eventually comes down into the grasp of J.D. Dowdle. And the Indians turn away the Spartanburg scoring threat.
Say Dowdle made that tackle to force the kick, and then you look inside, there was penetration, and able to get a hand on the football and come away with no points out of that drive.
So for a moment, it looked like we may have an Ingles field goal challenge completed on both sides. Gaffney with a field goal earlier, but Spartanburg's is turned away, and now it's 1st and 10 Indians. The ball resting just inside the 20-yard line. A program known for its pride, its tradition, its 17 state championships. From across the way, introducing its new faces to the faithful. And they're liking what they see from Tyler Smith. Another dose of Smith. And he's got another First Franklin Financial first down. Smith, one of the senior leaders, he and Ken Littlejohn, who've carried a lot of the load here, Tom. When you're working in so many new wide receivers, so many new faces on defense, what a luxury it is to have these 2 experienced backs.
And at 200, he is tough to bring down. Had a chance there, but strength and speed before a newcomer, Harrison Danton, at 6'1", 187, a senior, one of the inside linebackers, able to run him down to the 42.
26 yards later, by the way, that's Harrison Danton, the brother of Andrew Danton, Spartanburg wide receiver, getting his first crack at football here from a starting standpoint. Up near the 50 as the Indians bite off another pretty good chunk on 1st down, with Smith once again getting his number called. The 6', 200-pound running back with a breather here ahead of the 2nd down play.
73 carries, 472 yards. 3 touchdowns a year ago. He averaged 6.5 yards per carry.
He also has an offer from Navy. He's going to be playing at the next level, perhaps as a midshipman when all is said and done. A natural leader. They talk about his speed. You've already seen it tonight. Here's the 2nd down snap. To Grayson Loftus. Seems pretty comfortable in that quarterback role for the Indians thus far. And as Littlejohn tried to cut for an opening, flags are down at the 47 or 48-yard line.
But Javarius Rice, as you see there, he did an outstanding job. He got away from the blocker one-on-one out of the perimeter. He's only 5'9", 136, but senior came up and made a solid tackle there as the flag went down.
It's going to back the Indians up as they walk this off to the 34-yard line. Gives us a chance to check in once again field side with Maryland.
Jason, we've discussed the need for this Spartanburg secondary to improve in game 1 here tonight. The message to them, very simple after the first touchdown for Gaffney. You must communicate better, talk to one another, and make sure everybody's on their assignment. So we can do this here tonight. We can be better than we are right now.
The message, as you said, Maryland, clear. Let's see what Gaffney has from behind the sticks with under a minute to play in the first period. Grayson Loftus, pocket passing quarterback of the Indians, perhaps a chance to show his arm off here, and he will. He's got a man in behind the Spartanburg defense, and he's waiting on it for the reception inside the 10-yard line. It's Deshaun Curry, the junior wideout, and the Indians are in business again.
Well, he had 2 players there in the area, and then Curry was able to come back across and make the catch. You mentioned he just waited and threw it as far as he could downfield. I thought it was Huey, but then it was Curry.
There's the arm strength, but they're walking this one back. And It's going to be an ineligible downfield against the Indians that will negate what would have been the biggest play of the young season.
Tell you what, showed some arm strength there, rolling left and having to stop and throw across your body. Loftus is 6'4", 210. The junior lofted it long that time. It's going to come back. It just shows you that he has the arm strength to get that ball deep.
And talk about his D1 potential, how key his decision-making is going to be, with the different weapons he has at his disposal this year. You said it, it won't go for the yardage that the fans on the far side may have hoped, but it is a window perhaps into the future of this season, because you know now Grayson Loftus can load up and fire away. He's going to need to. Second down and forever. Instead, he'll give to Little John. He gets most of it back up across the 45-yard line. Ken Littlejohn with a shoestring tripping him up at around the 45. And that will take us to the end of the first period of action. It's a first period that belongs to Gaffney. A field goal and a touchdown for the Indians. And they lead their rivals on the road after one. Carolina Furniture Concepts, proud sponsor of Friday Night Rivals. You want it, they have it. Furniture in stock and ready to deliver. Visit their Arden and their Waynesville showroom, or you can go online at carolinafurnitureconcepts.com. Set for the start of the second period. They are flying that flag proudly with a 10-0 lead after one. Your impressions after one quarter of football here in the fall of 21?
Well, here's a Gaffney team that won 6-1 last year. We had that great game, 30-29, able to win over Dorman. And Dorman missed that 35-yard field goal. Then the next week, they lost 41-40 at Nation Ford, or should I say they won that ball game, and then lost a tough game to TL Hanna, 34-33, went 6-1. That was in the second round. Come back, lost a lot of players. I was impressed with the way they were able to do some good things on the offensive side of the football with a balanced attack, rushing and passing.
And let's not just brush over how the season ended for the Indians. This is tossed out incomplete near side. And was a missed extra point for Gaffney that kept them from being able to tie the TL Hanna game late. They lost by a single point to the eventual Upper State champions in the second round of the playoffs.
That was a game that 14-13 at half. TL Hanna scored the first 20 in the second half. Looked like they're going to run away with it. Gaffney, as you mentioned, in the fourth quarter, able to get within one to miss the extra point. TL Hanna then lost the championship game to Dutch Fork 28-6.
Which has become a rite of passage in South Carolina of late. That Dutch Fork team taking the reins and winning the state championship, a regular occurrence. And that's a team that Gaffney fans are going to get even more familiar with, as this is deadened at around the 38-yard line. Gaffney lost its opponent, Union County, next week. And we now know that they're going to welcome this defending, you just keep on going, right, Tom? State champion Dutch Fork Silver Foxes to the reservation in Gaffney next Friday night. That's going to be the next game up for these Indians. This is a tune-up tonight for a date with the state champs, with the streak, everything else on the line over across the county line next week.
Been beaten in 50 games. I think it's 24 straight wins. And they're, by the way, they're up this way too. They're down at Rand tonight. They're going to play 5 Dutch Fork, 5 upstate teams this year.
Spartanburg back to work. Tries to dump it underneath. That's good for about 4 or 5. The connection is Fulmer. Ends up hitting Jay Watson Staggs. Well, Dan Jones, when this one's all over with, he may just want to call to the other sideline and see what he can learn from Mark Hodge. Spartanburg faced Dutch Fork twice in the preseason. And Mark Hodge pulled out a little Ric Flair on us. He said, well, my philosophy is if you're going to be the man, you got to beat the man. So play who you have to play in order to gauge where you really are. And both these teams going to certainly be doing that, Spartanburg and Gaffney, across the course of the season. And this Spartanburg team battle tested as a result of their preseason. Let's see if they can turn it into some points on the board. Not right here. Looks a little bit like last year and the big job that was often done up front for the Gaffney Indians. This go round, it's Brayshawn Littlejohn. And did we tell you about family connections? Do you remember Bradshaw Littlejohn that led the Indians to a state championship in the not too distant past? Well, there is a kinship there as well. The relations, they are all over the place. We got a player down for a moment here at the 42. We'll check on the status of the injured Viking after the break. Well, a reminder, it's Bow Time, the new Bo's chicken sandwich. Hand-breaded, bold seasoned, and big league crunchy. It'll make you say, that's so good. So try the Bo's chicken sandwich for just $3.99, only at Bojangles. It's Bow Time. Well, the big man on that Spartanburg offensive line, Daryl Brandon, is the player a bit shaken up. The best news of all, he is up and working his way off as we speak. Here's a young man, Tom, with a great deal of potential. Mark Hodge and his staff talking about how he's going to grow into his size as an experienced football player, and they're looking for great things from him for the future. He certainly passes the eye test.
6'5", 325. He's a junior, and you asked him on the conference call this week to name a newcomer, and that was the young man that he was very high on. Right next to him is Kyrell Owens, the right guard at 5'9", 315. We mentioned the captain, Dre Sims, the center, 5'9", 305, Chase Rose, and Zach Moore. They like Zach Moore at left tackle, 6'4", 234, and a senior up front. And they think that offensive line, as the year goes on, is going to gel very well together.
Third down coming for this Spartanburg crew. Important snap at the 10:41 mark, second quarter. Spartanburg looking to keep the drive going. They will. And it's across the 40 into Gaffney territory at the 32. Something Spartanburg hopes to see often tonight. That's a connection between Fulmer and Andrew Dent.
Boy, you love that call, though. Get it out of your hands in a hurry. You don't have to wait for a lot of things to develop and the offensive line to block up front. Then the cutback, and then able to be downfield for a first down. Landon Bullock able to run him down in the secondary, but a big play, an important play in this game for the Spartanburg Vikings.
Third down conversion, no less, and a first Franklin Financial first down in order, and they'll go back to Carter. And it's across the 30 to the 29-yard line. You saw the care with which the Spartanburg training staff, coaching staff handled that injury situation a moment ago. It reminds you what the focus is here at Spartan High, Tom. Not just about football, also about the development of these players as young men. Part of the second-year installation of the system. It's about the Gridiron Club. It's about the refined program, which we'll talk a little bit more about as the night goes on, where you're growing these young players into outstanding young men. And early returns are very good on that being established here. Let's check in with Maryland for a little more.
the emphasis on growth from Mark Hodge to his players last time his team was past midfield. You better have some guts. Next time we're in this position, you get that ball across the goal line. If you don't want to give it your all, why are you even here right now? We'll see if these Spartanburg Vikings can get the ball across the goal line right now.
That'll help you be refined right there, Tom. We'll talk about all the people that are getting on board. He's wanting his team on this third down play to get on board, and it's the Gaffney defensive line able to snuff it right out, and among others on the scene for Gaffney, Nathan Johnson, the junior. Nathan Johnson, if the name Johnson sounds familiar to you, wide receiver last year. Johnson, that's his brother. He's back again.
Yeah, he's a good-looking player, defensive end position. You saw the replay there and the angle that he was able to take and bounced off. 6'6", 200-pound junior.
And again, he is the brother of Nathan Johnson, one of the key receivers for the Indians a year ago out of that talented receiving core they lost. They love his length, played some tight end last year. I think he's found his spot there on the defensive side of the ball. Fourth down, Spartanburg going for it. Looking for the energy that would come from a conversion, and sitting right in a hole in that Gaffney defense is who else but Andrew Denton again. Keep it alive and move the chains. A first Franklin Financial first down inside the Gaffney 5 for Spartanburg.
A really good job by Fulmer. He's looking. He got a brush block, gave him a little bit of time to throw it, and keep developing your pattern. Put your head down. 2 hands on the ball. Powers forward before he's knocked down there. Great play, big play.
Some of those alumni would be proud. Mark Hodges talked about getting the alumni involved. Part of the development of the program here. Those that are on the near side enjoying what they're seeing from these Vikings right now. Here's Carter, tries to cut, reaches for the goal line, has it. Spartanburg on the board for the first time this fall. A Vikings touchdown for Drake Carter.
I tell you, that is just huge. You're talking about losing your outstanding quarterback, Raheem Jeter, hurt in a scrimmage. Fulmer, not a whole lot of experience. What are you going to get out of that young man? What are you going to call? How are you going to play the game? And, you know, didn't have a whole lot of success early, but able to make some big plays in this drive. Get it out on the edge. Let's see what Carter can do. He's a young man that came back from a year ago that had 7 touchdowns and got a huge one there.
Looks like we have a Gaffney player that's a little bit shaken up in the end zone. Appears to be Javari Bonner, one of those defensive backs for Gaffney. And a staff over to tend to the member of the Gaffney secondary. Just ahead of the Spartanburg extra point. See if we can get a glance at exactly what happened to Bonner here as you get another view of the TD.
And kind of lose things in the screen there, but did cross the goal line, and good camera work there by the crew.
Yeah, how about the awareness that you saw from Carter there, able to stretch out, make that work. Up and leaving under his own power. Best news of the night, as we said, with the Viking up and moving a moment ago, is Javari Bonner. One thing always concerns you early in the season, Tom, injuries. So our hope tonight, we're going to see a lot more of this. When play is stopped, these players able to move under their own power and be ready to go next Friday night. Here comes the extra point for Spartanburg, trying to cap the drive with 7 on the board. And the Indians, having blocked a field goal try earlier, now have an extra point to hang their hats on as well. And it'll keep it a 4-point game. That's huge when you think about the good field goal kickers we have in this contest tonight. The spread is going to stay 4, and look at the push from that Gaffney line on this field goal try.
I think it was big number 90 up front. I think it was Johnson that was able
again
to get in there and make that play at 6'6".
Nathan Johnson.
General area, yeah.
All right, for Spartanburg, they're able to put points on the board here. Had to have it, Tom Van Hoy.
They did. I mean, you looked at the first couple of possessions, and then they had pretty good field position after they were the punt return, or the kick return, I should say, and that set things up. Had a punt, had a field goal block, and then able to weather the long pass that was called back, get the stop, get the ball back. And as Marilyn was talking about a moment ago, this was a drive that the Spartanburg Vikings needed to get to the end zone. They did. It was impressive. And, you know, at one point was 10-0 and looked like, you know, Gaffney may widen out a bit. That's a big one. You don't ever want to see the PAT block and still to get on the board with a touchdown.
Mentioned the refined program a little bit earlier. Redeemed, empowered, finish, integrity, unflinchable. Empathetic, deliberate. Well, that drive, deliberate, unflinchable. Of course, you're talking about the development of young men with those qualities, those characteristics, those values for this Spartanburg coaching staff, as well as their development on the football field. You saw a little bit of both there with the way they responded, Tom. And this community is responding to what's happening with the Spartanburg program. Mark Hodge really didn't get a year one. Think about what last year was for coaches. He said, we really still feel like in many ways we are in year one, although we love the advancement and development. And he's not the only one, Tom. He had an alumni association meeting trying to get a lot of the old Spartanburg players involved the other night. Had 75 alums show up to support this Spartanburg program. The Gridiron Club is growing. That refined program building some steam. So there's the first signs of it here in 2021 for Spartanburg on the football field and between the white lines. And by the way, he said the kind of support we're receiving from guys like Steve Davis, who can forget his time here, running all over the upstate and beyond, eventually an outstanding NFL player, Super Bowl champ. Wayne Tollison has been involved. He said we had players that graduated as early as the 60s and 70s, all the way to some of the players that Mark Hodge himself coached when he was here under Doc Davis before becoming a head coach himself, all getting back on board with the program. They liked what they saw on that last Spartanburg drive. And those are the kind of guys that you would put to bed with stories of if you grew up here in Spartanburg County. That much is for sure, just like some of those names we talked about on the Gaffney side. This is rushed out at the 37-yard line. What kind of answer will Gaffney have? What do you think about the work that we've seen? Yes, Tyler Smith, Little John have carried the load, but the work we've seen from the Blue Ridge transfer, Grayson Loftus, so far.
I think he's been good. I mean, you go back to a year ago when he was there. It was a 2-5 team, 102 out of 204, 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 200-plus per game, and completed 50%. And I think he's been very good. He's been able to throw the football, and here's on the run.
Under some pressure here, but he is on target in a tight window on the far side. That'll put the Indians in Spartanburg territory at the 48-yard line as he connects with Jadion Tate.
Yeah, a little improvisation there. We saw him do the same thing. He was called back with the long pass, get him into a situation where we've had success on the ground. That opens up the passing game and what you can do. And, you know, you got some new and some young, good-looking receivers with speed. They love the speed as well, so they're getting their indoctrination here tonight as well.
This time he's going to go over the top, inside the 40, make it the 25-yard line before they are able to rush Smith out of bounds. And Gaffney's going to move the chains with another First Franklin Financial first down. Looking like a quarterback in a rhythm right now is Grayson Loftus. They talked about Loftus and how cerebral he is. Said he carries a notebook to all the film sessions. Coach Dan Jones talking about just how much his football IQ has shown up in a short period of time. It looks like through spring ball and 7-on-7s, he's already developed quite a rapport with these receivers.
Nice touch pass there.
And he hands off to the middle of the field inside the 25 to around the 22-yard line. Of course, a young man with plenty of potential to play at the next level in his own right. They talk about trying to make him a coach on the field. That he really is capable of becoming that guy. Again, just this season in his junior year, so he's got another to develop for Gaffney as becoming a guy who really becomes a secondary coach on the field for him. You can see that kind of calm on this drive, much like what we saw on the last drive from Garrett Fulmer, called upon last minute here for Spartanburg, who led the Vikings into the end zone a moment ago. Here's the answer drive for Gaffney, and Loftus is going to see trouble and slide down at the 20-yard line.
Two things there. I mean, I like the call because you've had great job of throwing the football downfield to a wide receiver, dumping it out for a back, and you're getting movement up inside with the offensive line with Little John and with Smith as well. Get your quarterback involved. Doesn't run a whole lot, and the other part about that was get down, which he did, you know. But you get him into the mix, and it just puts something else in the mind of the defense that he might be able to do that.
Saw the primetime players getting ready. It's almost halftime. The band working their way into position. Let's see what kind of position this Gaffney offense ends up with. Key third down at the 6-minute mark, second quarter. Boy, good job adjusting by Little John that time as he turned, and he's down to the 18, going to be fourth and about 4. Ball thrown just a little bit behind Little John, but he was able to adjust. See what the Indians do here. Again, you're going to watch it all night because you got two kickers that moments like this well within their range should the coaches choose to call upon it. But it looks like for now, Grayson Loftus is going to stay out there with this offense on 4th and about 4. And they're going to think about it, or the Gaffney Indians, as timeout is called for with 5:25 remaining in the half. Couple of spread offenses really opening up the playbooks in the early going tonight, and separated by just 4 points at this juncture. A lot of familiarity between these two, and you look over there at that Spartanburg sideline, Tom, and you see Chris Miller over there, who was the coach of the on the Gaffney sideline, who was on this Spartanburg sideline as the head coach prior to Mark Hodge. You get a view at our perch there. What a fine facility this is. Before we get into that storyline, what a great place to watch football, no matter what seat you have.
You and I have done a lot of games involving Spartanburg, including over at Wofford for a long time, and we were here, I think, for the second game that they ever played at this facility. And I know so many people work so hard to provide the opportunity to stay on campus. And, you know, one of the things that they couldn't do was go down and celebrate at Wofford, and here they can. The fans can come on the field after the ball game.
Getting back to that storyline, Chris Miller, he was the head coach of the Spartanburg Vikings. Boy, the mark he made on Spartanburg County in general. You think about all the championships that were won while he was a coordinator at Burns, and then as the head coach at Burns. Then he came over here, led Spartanburg to a state championship. He was the coach preceding Mark Hodge. In fact, they've been on staff together along the way. They're still great friends. So they're friends, Friday night enemies, I guess you might call it, but deep friends, and those friendships remain. He said this about his Vikings, Mark Hodge, that he said, you got so many of my young men who still love, still respect. The relationships are strong. He said, nothing there except for positive that we all want for each other. Obviously, that changes a little bit when you're going head-to-head on a night like this. But you think about having a former state championship head coach on your staff like Dan Jones does, accepting that, embracing that, and Chris Miller back here tonight in Spartanburg taking on his old team and one of his old comrades.
Mark Hodge right there, but yeah, with Chris Miller, he took over Bobby Bentley, won 4 state championships. At Burns came over and won the 4A Division II over York, 49-28 in 2014.
Coaching linebackers at Gaffney right now. We'll get a little more into his story before the night's done. On 4th down, Indians right up the seam, and Gaffney's going to have it on the doorstep, thanks to a run up the middle in the great room that was made for Tyler Smith.
Tell you, nothing fancy there. Let's just turn it around, give it to Smith. Great acceleration. Aragon, the center, and the guards in there as well. Jordan and Whitmer able to open a huge hole and knocking on the door, as they say.
Trying to get there, waiting for the signal. And our officials coming in as this was stacked up right on that goal line. And there it is. Touchdown for Gaffney. The officials had to come in and confirm it. But the Indians used the ground game to extend the lead at now 16-6 following the TD.
Get another look at it here. Just going to pound it up inside with that big offensive line. And once that young man gets ahead of steam at 200 pounds, he's going to power in and able to finish and go across the double stripe for the touchdown.
I got that thunder and lightning combination to some degree. Little John, who's the big bruiser, Smith, who's the speedy back, and those two working effectively alongside one another throughout the course of this one tonight. Gaffney, a touchdown to answer the Vikings' first score. The extra point true for Haynes, and with under 5 to go first half, the lead now 11 on Friday Night Rivals. Well, the Vikings and Indians tangling once again here in Spartanburg County on this beautiful Friday night in late August. Of course, the Gaffney Indians having just scored to extend the lead to 17-6. And Tom, it's a night that has the potential to be a milestone night on a couple of fronts. For Mark Hodge, who did such great work, as we talked about it at Chapman over the years, has that Spartanburg pedigree that eventually brought him back home here to patrol the sidelines for the Vikings. He's looking for win number 100 tonight. And Dan Jones and his crew working hard on the far side. For Coach Jones, he's sitting at 98 wins, just 2 away from the century mark. It speaks to the value both these coaches provide for these programs.
When I had a chance to visit with him in the pregame show, he talked about he played at Gaffney. He's been there 30-plus years, what it means to him and the success that he has had. You go back to Joe Montgomery, you go back to Phil Strickland, and Coach has been involved with all of those coaches as well. They both won a couple of state championships. He got one in 2012. You go back 2011, and they were 14-0, and they lost to Burns 31-24 in the championship game. They've lost in the upper state finals in 17 and 19 to Dorman. They've been close the last couple of years.
And he's going to join the likes of Bob Prevette, who the field's named after over at Gaffney. He's going to join the likes of A.L. Curtis, the longtime coach there as well. And you know, you talked about Ellis Johnson's time and how you're always compared to those who came before. Same thing true here.
Doc
and
Davis.
For Mark Hodge, he's got the connection to Doc Davis that makes that era where they made that incredible run come to life. Back-to-back titles for the Spartanburg Vikings. So you got the Doc Davis fingerprints on this program. You got so many of those coaching legends on both sides that have had their say and are still very much alive in these two programs.
Yeah, Spartanburg won 4 state championships in the 90s. 91, 4, 95, 96, and then 2001. They were the only team in the state of South Carolina that won 4 state championships in the 90s and did win 5 over a 10-year period.
And by the way, the guy coaching linebackers on that Gaffney side, we alluded to him a little bit ago, Coach Chris Miller. Well, he was a part of that powerhouse in the 2000s, that Burns powerhouse, before then coming here. We talked about it. And what does it say about these two coaches that you're willing to involve yourself on that kind of staff? Both of them praise their staffs. Mark Hodge said, my guy's basically handling everything because there's so many peripheral things I've had to handle the last few weeks. He talked about what a blessing that is. And how about Dan Jones being willing to bring a former state championship head coach and coordinator into the fold? He said, a lot of people said, you're going to hire? Yes, he said, I want the best. And he said, they laughed at me when I said once Chris Miller kind of retired from the head coaching ranks, and I said, I'm going to give him a call and see if he wants to come over here and coach a position. He said, they laughed, but I called, I offered, he said yes, and the rest is history. So you think about all the impact players on both sidelines in the coaching ranks that are available here tonight. It's another reminder of just how special these two teams are. All right, Spartanburg did answer a bit ago. They're going to need to do so again here, Tom, across the last 4.5 of the half.
Change their approach on the kickoff there. Instead of providing opportunity to return, they got to boost it to the sideline and pinned them back deep. This becomes a really important series because if they might have to punt it out.
They didn't have this technology back in the Doc Davis and A.L. Curtis and Bob Prevette days, did they? They certainly have so many more weapons with which to put their game plans together these days. What a luxury it is for these young men. And they're making the best of it. Here's Spartanburg with a solid gain up across the 25-yard line. Move the chains. That's another First Franklin Financial first down for the Vikings. How about the room that's being provided by those guys up front all of a sudden?
They are doing an excellent job. They need to, particularly, I think, on this drive at a 17-6 game, 4 minutes to go. At least get it out of there. If you have to punt the football, get it to where you can kick it down the field and make Gaffney have to drive a long way before the end of the first half.
Spartanburg some size on that line. And here comes the back, Carter. Well, these coaches praise one another's team and have a tremendous amount of respect. When you see Carter carry that across the first down marker for another First Franklin Financial first down, the names that were invoked when talking about Carter from the Gaffney coaching staff, they said, you remember those old Florida State backs from back in the day? He said, he reminds you of those old Florida State backs from back in the day. And it's certainly with the passing of longtime head coach Bobby Bowden, and everybody's thoughts still with the Bowden family and their ties to this area and beyond. It's a reminder of those days and what a high piece of praise that is, Tom, for the opposing coach to look at you and say, you remind me of some of the greatest college running backs of all time in the young stages of his career. Johnny Surratt up to make the stop for Gaffney that time. Here comes the second down play for Garrett Fulmer. He stepped into those shoes pretty nicely tonight of Raheem Jeter, who is still on the sideline with the injury if you're just joining us. And lowering the pads and rolling on through this go-round is Jay Davenport, a senior for the Vikings.
Yeah, young man, 5'3", 149, got some momentum, put his head down, got it out on the edge, and you see the big guys out in front there, and he's going to deliver the blow. How about that? And then he gets pounded as he goes out of bounds. But, you know, it shows you what kind of an attitude that he wants to provide for this team.
Got a player shaken up at around the 47-yard line. Looks like another of those Indians down. Warm night, pretty good collision there on any kind of night, though. And we'll see as they tend to the injured player. Like, we see plenty of movement there, so that's a really good sign.
You know, Jason, to go back, you get a shot of the technology, and you were asking about, we didn't used to see this. You can go back and talk to some of the O-line coaches, and they'll tell you that back in the day, when you took a Polaroid picture and you had to dry it, that was a big thing to see what the situation looked like defensively and offensively.
Now it's real time. Here's a look at Mark Hodge, the second-year head coach of the Spartanburg Vikings. In the 99 victories, which he's sitting tonight. He said, as both these coaches did, I'm not keeping up with that. He said, in fact, wasn't even aware of it. Thought maybe somewhere along the way last year it happened. I can guarantee you the people around these coaches very much aware of the mark they've made. We'll check on our injured player. Have more for you on Bojangles Friday Night Rivals right after this. Welcome back to Spartanburg High School. Vikings and Indians tangled in an 11-point game as we speak. The injured Gaffney Indian able to move off under his own power just a moment ago. So great sign. Paul Littlejohn, the senior defensive lineman, departed under his own power. Now Spartanburg, 3rd down 1, knocking on the doorstep of Gaffney territory. Hey, there's that little window into how he can provide that linebacker feel from the quarterback position. Garrett Fulmer finds open real estate and moves the chains with a first Franklin Financial first down.
Yeah, fine call, just direct snap, 5'10", 175 junior. Go off that left side, see if he can get it, keep the drive alive.
The Spartanburg team building character, building experience. One of the things they talk about, they love about this squad, the high ceiling. They're growing towards it with every drive here and able to loft this into the air. Thought he was going to have to play defense. Instead, he goes in and wins the ball for Spartanburg. Tyheem Richardson comes down with it. There is a flag on the 25-yard line. We'll see who this goes against, but I'll say it again, Tom. You thought Richardson was just going to have to get in there and bat it down. Instead, he goes into traffic and brings down the football.
I tell you, there were like 2 around. Goes up, how about that catch? He knocked away, able to make the concentration. 6'1", 166. The senior, watch him go up and get it. 15 catches, 215 yards, a touchdown a year ago.
And Fulmer stood in there and took a hit. The penalty is against Gaffney for pass interference. So a nice job by Spartanburg's Tyheem Richardson, and the senior has earned his team a first Franklin Financial first down at the 25. What a job adjusting by Richardson. And now a little more zip on this with not as much pressure, but into heavy traffic again. And this one is batted down. I think Marquise Bradley wanted a little more than a pass break.
The left corner at 6'1", 210, a senior. But to go back, and we were talking about that great catch, but you hit it, Jason, to stay in there and take the hit that he did to complete that. and then threw that kind of up for grabs there. Double team the coverage there. Probably fortunate it wasn't intercepted.
Trying to go to Andrew Denton, one we expect to be a favorite target for the Vikings this year. And in there to blow it up is Gaffney's J.D. Dowdle.
5'11", 190, the senior, 53 tackles a year ago, including 3 quarterback sacks. He had 15 tackles in that 34-33 loss to T.L. Hanna, the second round of the playoffs a year ago.
Tom, Spartanburg in a spot here with a 3rd down that a few yards, even just a few yards, makes you think about John Love because of his range. And a field goal would make it a 1-possession game heading into the half. So for Spartanburg, it's not an all or nothing drive right here. And timeout, as those decisions are being made as we speak, is called for with 1:42 to play.
But if you recall, they had a couple of issues with the kicking game as well.
Yes, they have.
Take a look at a low snap. Coming off the backside there was Dowdle. He's a young man that in the middle there is a force to be reckoned with, as the cliche goes. And tell you, they feel like this team can be a really good defensive team as you develop throughout the course of the year.
Spartanburg team that ended up with a winning record a year ago. That was building block number 1 for this program. Ended above 500 in one of the more unusual of years that you'll see. You think about the situation that they created there. A Gaffney team, we talked about it, that was knocking on the door, a missed extra point away perhaps. Could they have dispatched to T.L. Hanna? A lot of people talk about if it had been a full place over there. Who knows what it would have been like at the end of the year. But these two teams progressing close. How close? We're finding out tonight they have some weapons. Go back and underscore one thing you said a moment ago, though. Kicking game, the range is there. The protection has not been. So as these decisions are made right now, those of you just joining us, keep those two things in mind. Here's Fulmer on 3rd down and long. Looking toward the end zone. Another solid adjustment. Another big gain for Spartanburg by Tyheem Richardson. The developing story of this drive.
Well, another remarkable catch. Doubled coverage there, including the linebacker Wade in the general area. And that young man, Richardson, with the 15 catches a year ago, has made 2 sensational catches on this drive. Just leaping high at 6'1", a little bit late arriving there, but able to make the catch.
And the gunslinger, Garrett Fulmer, said, who's thinking about trying to decide about a field goal? They're knocking on the doorstep of the goal line to tighten this thing up even further, are the Vikings. And here's Fulmer. Sees some room left, but the speed of Gaffney's Philip Wade was too much from behind.
We saw that a moment ago, trying to pick up short yardage late in a drive, and that time the penetration was there, coming backside, make that play.
Time stopped with 90 seconds remaining in the half. We've got a Gaffney player. This looks a little more like a cramping situation there, something you're going to see. It's another hot one here in the upstate tonight. If you weren't with us at the start, temperatures in the high 80s, cooling off to the mid 80s once the sun went down. But it was a warm day. It's been warm through 7-on-7s, and this is something you certainly keep an eye on for these athletes.
Yeah, you talked about earlier, a lot of things to be thankful for, an opportunity to play in week 0, to get back and have fans and so forth. But you and I, and particularly our crew, our fine crew that's working here tonight, glad when that sun went down.
Everybody in agreement on that one, regardless of what jersey you're wearing or what location you have found here in Spartanburg. Well, 112 yards passing with the good work he's already done on this drive. So already a 100-yard passing night for Garrett Fulmer in effect. And Tom, once again, we pass along the good tidings that the shaken up player able to move right off without problems.
Yeah, Landon Bullock able to come off, one of their outstanding linebackers as well, along with Wade Dowdle. And
2nd down from inside the 5 for Spartanburg. Clock now rolling again with 1:20 left to go in the half. Well, a little bumper cars being played right atop the R and the G in that Spartanburg logo, and this is well out of anybody's reach. Yeah, so the clock stops with 1:17 to play, and 3rd down coming.
Just tried to throw the fade into the corner there. Tim Gill, the junior defensive back, 5'10", 165, applying the pressure there, and we've seen the catches by Richardson made and trying to get some single coverage there.
And this is the play for Spartanburg. The third down as they attempt to score a second touchdown. The Vikings getting their 6 by virtue of a drive and missing the extra point. Gaffney getting some penetration on the field goals and extra points to this point. Well, Ingles Markets, one of the proud sponsors of Friday Night Rivals, want to remind you to not let game night dinner get you stressed. Stop by Ingles. Great choices from the Ingles Deli, rotisserie chicken, fresh made salads, a delicious hot bar, and a sub bar. It's dinner and a snap, then off to the game. Ingles, low prices, love the savings. Well, wouldn't you like to know what's rolling through the mind of that gentleman and his coordinators as they get ready for this third down, key third down in the first half of this contest?
Say you got a chance to talk with him a little bit. You got a chance to talk with him earlier this week, but before the game, he was very good with his time. You know, we want to have a visit with him, and there's a lot of responsibility, but he stayed with us, and you can't. We really appreciate the opportunity for that and the information that we do get when we pass along.
Yeah, two of the great gentlemen in this sport occupying these sidelines tonight. Mark Hodge on the Spartanburg side, Dan Jones on the Gaffney side. A couple of local guys through and through. Their fingerprints all over this game at all levels. Third down Spartanburg after the timeout, and it is knocked down. Might have been an opportunity to go a ways with it for Gaffney had it been gathered in. Instead, it is incomplete. It'll be fourth down Vikings. Major dodge of the bullet by Spartanburg High School right there.
Sean Hemphill, the 6', 190-pound outside linebacker, had that ball and probably visions of going a long way.
Now take another look as that was right in and out of the grasp. The Gaffney defender bucks in there. Blocked again. No points on this drive for Spartanburg, and Gaffney's best work tonight, perhaps, has been done in that third facet of the game we talked so little about. Special teams looming large, and on this play, it was Clay Putnam looming large as Spartanburg has another kick blocked.
Tell you, but J.D. Lawson, if you look there, if he isn't back, he was the holder. If he doesn't get back there, that's a touchdown.
2 field goals, 1 punt, and 1 PAT, all snuffed out by Gaffney's special teams units. And you can do the math when you look at the scoreboard at how much tighter this game would be were it not for the work of that unit. Flag down at the 24-yard line.
Well, that's got to be disappointing to Mark Hodge when you have a kicker with the ability that John Love has, and not to be able to execute fundamentally to be able to get those points on the board, because young man that's highly regarded as a kicker, but unable in this case. And on the other part about that is Gaffney credit. They're able to do what they needed to do to get in there to force that type of situation. So they've been able to get it down to the defensive end.
Coaches talk about the push you can get on special teams and an attempt to block those field goals, those PATs. You're seeing it. And Gaffney can tell you a story from the postseason a year ago, in which seasons can often hinge on moments like that. So the development in those areas certainly in the forefront of these coaches' minds. Gaffney backed up after the penalty as it's first down and forever from the 14-yard line. Under a minute to go in the half, and diving on it for good measure just to be safe is the intended target on the far side, which was Gaffney's Jadarius Littlejohn, a senior wideout at 5'11", 175 over there. Yeah, you think about the Gaffney wide receiving core, Tom. Last year you had Paysor, you had Johnson, who we talked about, you had Brad Logan, one of the familiar names over there. All those lost to graduation, along with Andre Lindsay, the quarterback, and yet so far so good with Grayson Loftus, developing chemistry with this young crop of speedy backs and receivers. Speaking of speedy backs, across the 25 and up to the 28-yard line, the latest carry for Ken Littlejohn. But there was a long way to go here, so they're still going to be looking at 3rd and about 10.
Get a look at Littlejohn and cut back against the grain there, and had a good gain. Young man, 39 carries, 233 yards. A couple touchdowns a year ago. He averaged 6 yards per carry. And Jason earlier talked about how balanced that was. 31 touchdowns, 16 on the ground, 15 through the air, and 6-1 season a year ago.
Gaffney team undefeated in their region a season ago. And we didn't really explain it. We kind of alluded to it earlier. But Dan Jones and company right now in Region 3 5A, as opposed to their usual home maybe over the years in Region 2 5A. They're usually right alongside the likes of Spartanburg and Dorman and Burns and on down the line, Boiling Springs and on down the line. But as realignment has taken place over the last several sessions, the Indians, based upon the size of different schools around the state, have bounced back and forth between that region that has the Clovers and, you know, your
Fort
Rock Hill,
Mill.
Northwestern, your Fort Mill areas over there.
Yeah.
Yep. Versus here in Region 2. So Gaffney and Spartanburg playing tonight, not in a region affair with playoffs on the line, but in a tune it up, warm it up, and secure those bragging rights affair before they both hit region play a little deeper into the season. May very well see one another in the playoffs, though. You never know. Here's a 3rd down across the 35. And we should mention, as 4th is coming and we're inside the final half minute of the first half of action, everything back to normal from a playoff standpoint this year. Top 4 teams in each region will be awarded playoff berths when all is said and done. And the top 2 teams in each region will have a home playoff game in order to get things started once the playoffs arrive in November. I know a lot of water has to go under the bridge between here and there, but the good news is there's some sense of normalcy returning to the format.
Well, it's just nice to see what we have here tonight. Big crowd from Gaffney is here, the Spartanburg faithful as well. And we go to the end of the first half.
That will be all she wrote for half number 1, and Gaffney will carry a 17-6 lead into the locker room, due in large part to the work of its defense and the solid work that the special teams for the Gaffney Indians were able to provide. Again, 2 blocked field goals, a blocked punt, and a blocked PAT, all a part of the protection of this 17-6 lead. There you see Mark Hodge leading the Vikings off the field. Plenty to talk about during halftime. We'll get his thoughts coming back on. You'll want to stick around. We will hear from Coach Hodge on the other side of the halftime break. But first, Coach Dan Jones, who Maryland's working her way out to, and we'll hear from here in the next few moments. While she rounds up, Coach Jones, Tom, your impressions of the first half.
Well, I thought that you wondered how it was going to go from Spartanburg standpoint without Raheem Jeter to begin with Garrett Fulmer having to take over quarterback. Didn't get much going early on, but had some moments when they were able to rush the football. They were able to do a couple things, and they had chances. They got 6 points, but they had chances to add more to it with a couple of blocked field goals. So I thought they recovered somewhat in that regard.
Spartanburg with 112 passing yards, 43 rushing, and the 6 points on the board. Gaffney with 160 rushing, 85 passing, and obviously the 17 points and the 11-point lead. Coach Dan Jones getting ready to join us on the Carolina Furniture Concepts Coaches Corner. Gentlemen, 2 wins shy of 100. What a storied career he's had at Gaffney, and he's going to give us his thoughts on the first half as he's now with Maryland.
That's right. This is the Carolina Furniture Concepts Coaches Corner. Coach Jones, first, how do you explain the importance of special teams to your team to this lead right now?
No doubt about it. Our kickoff coverage has been fantastic, and then we blocked the 3 extra points or field goals, and you know, it's been super, and it's been a different guy each time, so we got to continue to do that. We know first game, you know, somebody's going to have some blunders in the kicking game, so we still got a half to go, and hopefully we won't have any in the second half.
A relatively blunderless offense for you. What do you like about what you've seen from your team in that respect so far?
Well, I like the way we've been able to run the ball. Tyler Smith and Ken Littlejohn done a super job, both of them in the backfield, and got a few plays by Caliber Huey out at wide receiver. We got to continue to have a couple of big plays in the second half.
We've got almost every roster name listed so far in this first half. Thank you for your time, and we'll see if you can hold on to this lead at the break.
Thank you very much.
Jason, Tom, back to you.
And we thank Coach Jones as well as Coach Hodge, both joining us on the Carolina Furniture Concepts Coaches Corner. That's a pleased Coach Stan Jones, at least for the first half, as his team carries the lead into the intermission.
Arby's tries to focus on 3 key areas when working with students. We focus on food insecurities, promoting youth leadership, and elevating career readiness. The Scholar Athlete of the Week highlights one student athlete who excels in both sports and academia. Arby's recognizes the importance of working hard in the game and in the classroom. Sponsoring a program like Scholar Athlete fits in perfectly with our core values and our desire to promote student leaders. One of our core values is to make a difference. The Inspirational Student of the Week highlights a student who makes a difference in the lives of others and their communities. By honoring these students, we hope to inspire tomorrow's leaders. From your local Arby's, we wish all the students a fantastic school year.
Well, welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on My40. I'm Marilyn Payne at Spartanburg High School, where Gaffney leads Spartanburg 17-6. With me is Cortez Dawkins. He is our Gaffney Scholar Athlete of the Week. I'm going to hand you your plaque from Arby's, first of all. Now, Cortez is a self-proclaimed perfectionist. He ranked 25th in his class of 350 students at Gaffney High School. He told me that math is your favorite subject. Why is math your favorite?
It's my favorite because it comes easy to me.
Okay,
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
when did you figure that out, that math comes easy to you? Because I cannot say the same for myself.
When I was in elementary school, I was always good at it. I used to make hundreds on every test, but if I made a 99, I was disappointed.
Okay, so what did you do with that disappointment when it came?
I just studied harder for the next test.
And now you're also a 2-year varsity athlete with the basketball team, a 2-year letterman.
Yes,
what
ma'am.
do you want to do that kind of combines some of your passions, that love for math and your talent on the basketball court?
I want to further my career in college. I would like to attend USC Upstate.
Okay.
That's the plan. I want to be a PA, a physician assistant. Yes, ma'am.
Why is being a physician's assistant something that appeals to you?
I like helping people, and math ties into that. So if I get to help people and do a little bit of math and do a little bit of science, then hey, I'm set for my career. I'll be happy every day going to work.
Yeah, and if you're happy when you go to work, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Well, it sounds like you've got it all laid out. I think it's very easy to understand why he was also given Gaffney's 2020 to 2021 Sportsmanship Award at Gaffney High School. Cortez, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us and tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do what you do so well. I admire and aspire to be that level of a perfectionist. You are inspiring not only to me, but everybody, I think, at home watching Friday Night Rivals here. Stay with us at Spartanburg High School. We'll be back with more after the break.
Hey everybody, this is Friday Night Rivals. Hey everybody, this is Friday Night Rivals. I'm Nelson Weston and I'm ready for some 2021 high school football. And who better to join me than my good friend, Melissa Level.
Who is
Melissa,
always ready for football.
She's always ready for football, ladies and gentlemen. Melissa, we're ready for football, but guess what? Football is not the only thing that's in session right now. School is also back in session. Tell us all about that famous Tools for Schools program.
So important, and whatever we do for schools is how we wrap around that. It is our famous Tools for School program. You go into your Ingalls Market, get your Ingalls Advantage card, which will save a lot of money.
Indeed.
Okay, and then you link it to the school of your choice. Every time you shop and use that card, money goes right back to the school of your choice. It's a wonderful way to get for supplies, audio-visual equipment, computer equipment, and even things that you might not think you'd be able to do. We've paid for trips, we pay for bleachers, we pay for air conditioning systems. It's a great way for communities to rally around and get what they need for their school.
So basically, every time you swipe your card, you're giving back to your community.
That's
Is
right,
that right?
absolutely.
It doesn't get any better than that, folks. Now, of
Absolutely.
course, on the field itself, from what I understand, you guys have a famous, also, field goal challenge. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, and this is a lot of fun to keep up with throughout the season because every field goal on Friday Night Rivals will be $100. So at the end of the season, we'll be giving one great big check with our partners at WMYA to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Henderson County. So you're going to be whatever the total is, and hopefully we're going to be a lot of field goals this season, but tabulate it along the way, keep up with it as you go along, that total grows. It's a wonderful opportunity. The athletes get involved in a little bit. It's wonderful. A lot of fun.
That's fantastic. Now, Melissa, let's talk for a second about the relationship between Ingalls and Friday Night Rivals. You guys have had a long-standing relationship from what I understand.
That's right. We've been there from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning, and we wouldn't have it any other way. We love seeing high school football. Something about the energy on Friday Night Football, under the lights. It's always just a little bit more exciting than any other time of the week, don't you think?
I do. And what about, speaking of Friday Night Football, what about that tailgating special? Tell us about that.
Right. Well, you know, tailgate's a little different for Friday Night Lights because, you know, you've got to get the athlete to the field, you know, but you got the rest of the family to feed and everybody, you know, coming from work probably. Grab something good from Ingalls. Don't stop the drive-through. Don't go through something quick and fast food. We're fast, but we're healthy and great and fresh, and something for everybody. Good boar's head meat subs, wonderful fried chicken, rotisserie chicken, hot bar open all the time, even a little sushi if you want to get a little crazy about it. All terrific.
All outstanding work. Good job, Melissa.
Thank you.
This is Friday Night Rivals. I'm Nelson Weston. Time for some football.
Well, welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on My40. It's the season opener, and we're at Spartanburg High School. The Spartanburg Vikings, though, trailing the Gaffney Indians 17-6. Tonight, our Ingalls Food for Thought is brought to you, of course, by Ingalls Markets. Ingalls, low prices, love the savings, and you've heard Jason talk about it already tonight. Mark Hodge has introduced the refined player development program here at Spartan High since he returned back before the 2020 season. Refined stands for Redeemed, Empowered, Finish. Integrity, unflinchable, empathetic, and deliberate. Those are all the things that Mark Hodge wants his athletes here at Spartanburg High School to be, but it goes much beyond the football field. He also encourages the athletes, not only on the football team, but throughout the athletic department at Spartanburg, to know themselves, learn, serve, lead, and evolve. And with that, he explained it to us last year, and again coming into this game tonight. They've developed and reevaluated the different academic needs of all the high schoolers here at Spartanburg High School, so that it's not just the athletics department, it's really all of Spartan High, considering the ways that their young athletes and the young students throughout the school can be better individuals and better in the classroom and better throughout their community. Again, that's our Ingalls Food for Thought tonight, the encouragement from Spartanburg High School's Mark Hodge to be refined for all of the young individuals here at Spartanburg High School. Ingalls, low prices, love the savings. Stay with us here on Friday Night Rivals. We'll be back right after the break.
Gaffney leading Spartanburg 17-6 at the break. The Vikings having just emerged from the locker room, and the head coach of the Spartanburg Vikings, Mark Hodge, is standing by with Maryland.
Jason, thanks. This is the Carolina Furniture Concepts Coach's Corner. Mark Hodge here with me. Mark, how do you assess your team's entire performance in this first half?
Well, a lot of us just learning how to win big games, you know, being there for and performing. We're trying to do a little bit too much at times. We've got kids that are trying to do more than they need to be, and they're ending up out of position. So we just got to settle down, do our job, trust each other, and continue to fight the play. We've had our chances. You know, we couldn't get off the field on third down, fourth down. Had the ball in the red zone a couple times. Kicking game's been atrocious. So those are just things that you can't do to win a big game. So hopefully second half will be better.
A couple highlights for your offense on major catches by Tyheem. How do you build off of that momentum in the second half from those key moments?
You know, he gets the confidence he can make those plays. You know, and that's the thing we're having to learn is we're good enough to do stuff, but we can't make it up. So, you know, I'm excited about some of the things that's happened. But then there's other things that it's hard to truly evaluate because we ain't done what we've been asked to do. So that's one thing we're trying to get them to understand is just do it as you're coached, and then we'll know. Right now there's some things we just don't know.
All right, well, we'll see what they can do as their coach in the second half. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.
Jason, back to you.
Coach Hodge talked about communicating to his players that no matter who's not in another position, your job remains the same. So they're talking about those jobs. He's a little short-handed tonight without Raheem Jeter, without the likes of Jacob Hamrick, whose thoughts are with his family with some things going on there, one of the other starters. But those out there have played well at times, Tom. You're going to see a whole lot of this, though. Special teams for Gaffney, huge, and the offense clicking at times.
Yeah, had the block punt there you saw, and blocked extra point along the way as well. This one was going to be called back, but throw it up there. We saw Loftus tonight show that his strength of his arm there, and a little nice touch pass there. And Fulmer gets it to net, and he takes it up the sideline. And again, Aaron Smith, he had a really outstanding performance in the first half, rushing the ball, and in addition to that, catching the football over 100 yards in total offense for him in the first half.
Well, and here is the touchdown for Tyler Smith, and a little more special teams impact. But we saw both these quarterbacks, both of them, Gaffney's new transfer quarterback, Grayson Loftus, and Garrett Fulmer called upon tonight in the absence of Raheem Jeter. Both show their arm strength and their touch. What you have to like is Spartanburg, at least the yardage total really climbed in the second quarter.
Look at that, 155 total, had 7 at the end of the first quarter. And the young man we talked about, Fulmer, he has 112 yards passing first half. Loftus in his first appearance, that up 11 for 85 for Gaffney, 160 on the ground. They've really been able to move the football. Smith and Little John, 245 yards. Both teams had 5 possessions in the first half. It's a 17-6 ball game, and if you're Spartanburg, you're sitting there thinking, man, you know, you left some points on the board.
You're wondering how it breaks down for Gaffney in the rushing department. Just over 90 yards. In fact, he's 6 away from a 100-yard night rushing for Tyler Smith, and Little John just up over 60 yards to his credit on the night. What do you think the conversation was like in that Spartanburg locker room, that nice, amazing, new Spartanburg locker room down to our right?
I think it was just pretty apropos what Coach Hodge said to Maryland a moment ago. Just, you know, do your job, doing some things you're not trying to do, and you know, they've worked on the kicking game and had some issues there. Gaffney's done a heck of a job and taken advantage of that on their side of things. But I think basically it boils down to we can coach you, and if you'll do what we tell you, we think we got a pretty good shot.
Dan Jones' Gaffney Indians won the Childers coin toss, brought to you by Childers Heating and Air, but they deferred to the second half. So it will be Gaffney trying to build on its lead with the football as we start the third quarter.
Well, then we talked about Garrett Fulmer being in for Raheem Jeter. If you just joined us, the young man got injured in a scrimmage and not expected to play tonight. And with a new quarterback.
Not all Mark Hodge was without. We talked about also the absence of Jacob Hamrick, who was expected to start tonight. Something coming up last minute there. He said, please let everybody know our thoughts with that family. This has been a week. You think about some of the weather that's rolled through this area and what that's done from a schooling standpoint, not only moving students around, but changing practices. This press box was hit by lightning at one point across the last couple of weeks. So it's been a week where a great deal of adversity has taken place, and they're trying to translate that adversity into some growth on both sidelines. We'll see how that builds upon itself as we work our way into the third quarter through the end zone for a touchback, and Gaffney will start things at the 20-yard line. What a beautiful venue for football.
And you got a chance. Jason's got the red shirt on there that they were not concerned about you and I's physical ability, or you guys are going to have to walk up to the press box. Can't use the elevator.
I need to be doing a whole lot more of that. I don't know about you, Tom.
Conditioning a factor in broadcasting, huh?
First down from the 20 after the touchback. Here is the first-year quarterback of the Indians, Grayson Lofton, back to work, and Grayson Loftus showing you the wheels just a little bit here. If you weren't with us in the first half, Grayson Loftus transferring in from Blue Ridge. He came to the final 2 games of Gaffney's season a year ago. He attended the 2 playoff games. He and his family, they were looking for where they were going to move next, and with jobs and whatnot. He attended the 2 playoff games, was really impressed with Gaffney. They bought a home in Cherokee County. He's the new quarterback of the Gaffney Indians after a stout start to his career at Blue Ridge High School. But making the jump to 5A hasn't seemed to be much of a problem for the young Mr. Loftus so far tonight.
7 out of 11 for 85 yards throwing the football in the first half. And boy, if you have the success on the ground with Smith and Littlejohn, that'll open some things up for you on the offensive end. We've talked about the young men they lost, Kobe Fasor and also Natron Johnson. Wide receiver standpoint, but having a couple of other young men get a chance to play and step up here tonight.
Yeah, no Andre Lindsay. And on the defensive side, though, a number of defenders have stepped up. Guy playing in Athens these days. Mr. Football in South Carolina. Tyrion Ingram, Dawkins, no longer with the Indians as well. They've replaced some of those losses nicely. They will not be able to get away here, though. Continuing his pursuit and dropping the quarterback for a loss is Judah McGimpsey. We've called his name so often tonight. This, thus far, though, the premier moment of Spartanburg's leader on defense.
And watch how he sticks with it. Got blocked there by Smith, and then he comes back around and makes the play. 6'1", 206, a senior captain, 74 tackles a year ago, and that's a big one here early in the third quarter, playing the first possession of the Gaffney Indians.
Yeah, think about it. Cook gone, C.J. Lipscomb gone, the kicker for Spartanburg, Fowler, not to mention the loss of one of their quarterbacks a year ago, Seth Smith, and then J.D. Ratliff graduating, one of the outstanding receivers they had. So you get into these first games of the year, and you think about who was and now who is, and the exciting part is who is going to be. We may find out the answer to that question here in the second half. The next playmakers for both these teams. 37 yards on the punt, so that's what Spartanburg needed defensively as they try and chip away here in the third quarter.
Yeah, we talked about with Gaffney getting the football to start the third quarter in a 17-6 game, and a couple of the kicking issues that Spartanburg has had. It was an important possession, now really outstanding field position for Spartanburg to begin their first possession here in the third.
And Garrett Fulmer found out this week he was getting the start with Raheem Jeter still a little banged up from some of the preseason play for this Spartanburg team. Boy, what a tough slate Spartanburg played in the preseason. They believe Raheem Jeter is going to be a high-level quarterback, a very sought-after player at the next level. But Garrett Fulmer has filled his shoes nicely tonight, and he's trying to put together another Spartanburg scoring drive here.
I'll tell you what, he has done a really fine job. 10 out of 14 throwing the football for 112 yards. A couple of really outstanding catches by Ty Richardson, who could climb the rope and make a couple of those catches.
Well, that really made those stats jump in that second quarter. Didn't get anything off of that drive. We'll document the Spartanburg drives for you here in a moment, but first is carried far side across the 45 down to around the 43-yard line where the Gaffney defense is on the scene. Here were the drives for Spartanburg in the first half, Tom. 4 plays and a punt, 6 plays and a punt. Remember the block. Yes. 5 plays and a field goal block, 8 plays and a touchdown, extra point block, and then 14 plays on the drive that ended up in the blocked field goal near the end of the half.
That was huge. Of all those you mentioned, the 14-play drive and not to get anything out of it.
And this setup inside. Gaffney swarming to the football, and on the scene to eventually bring it to a close is E.J. Buxton, a junior linebacker, 6 foot 185 in there to help make the stop for the Indians. Or check that, Keyshawn Hemphill will remind you once more. Hemphill wearing jersey number 29 tonight. His jersey number 16 didn't arrive. They had to put him in a new number, so that's Keyshawn Hemphill wearing the jersey originally devoted. to E.J. Buxton.
Tell you what, he is having a good night. You've got Hemphill, Dowdle, and Bullock, along with Wade, those 4 linebackers out of the 3-4 defense. Very experienced group back there, all 4 of those seniors.
And it's tossed away right into the feet of that Spartanburg group right up on the edge of the gridiron, and it's going to be a change of personnel after this with 9:02 left to play in the 3rd quarter.
Well, he did the right thing there. Nothing available. Just throw it away and have yourself opportunity to get back on the field defensively.
Well, here come the Indians. They take over here at their own 42-yard line after the Spartanburg opportunity goes for naught there. And a last desperation effort falling on that Spartanburg sideline to end that first drive of the 3rd quarter. Whole bunch of football left, though, here, Tom. Going to be interesting to see if the Spartanburg defense can answer the bell this second drive the way they did the first go-around. And one thing we learned about Gaffney in that first half, number of new faces, but tremendous playmakers for the Indians.
Yeah, I think they feel like that when all's said and done, they're going to have some guys on offense that can get it done. They were a high-scoring team a year ago. They did lose some players, and they've got to fill in a couple of spots, but they feel pretty good with the folks coming back.
Yeah, a number of spots to fill in. All the receivers. We talked about Andre Lindsey. We mentioned the Mr. Football no longer there on the defensive side of the ball, but already in this first game of the year, boy, how about play one of your main rivals right out of the gate? Already in this first game, a number of the key pieces of the future for Gaffney introducing themselves to the Indians faithful on the far side. They face a 3rd down right now with 8 and change remaining in the 3rd quarter. So another important play for Spartanburg. Gaffney just 1 of 7 on 3rd down to this point. That stat may surprise you a bit when you think of the way the Indians have moved the football at times. And it's going to be 1 of 8 only because it wasn't quite corralled over there by Amazon Littlejohn. Well, he had plenty of room to get the first down, it appeared, but this is going to go incomplete, and the Indians are set to kick it away. A.J. Hames back out there to do so.
Yeah, going to have a chance here to get the football back, and had great field position, unable to do anything about it before. But tell you, your defense the first 2 times here in the second half have forced this Gaffney Indian football team that had 250 yards total off in the first half to punt.
Strong left foot of A.J. Hames. And the Indians are lunging forward at right around the 32. Gaffney will blow it dead there. That's where Spartanburg takes over. So the Vikings have it down 11 after the 24-yard punt from Gaffney. This one's settling into a little bit of a 3rd quarter rhythm here. And while they change personnel, we'll take a breather as well. Back to Spartanburg on the other side of this break. You're watching Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. It's Bo time. We'll remind you once more, try that new Bo's Chicken Sandwich. Hand-breaded, bold seasoned, big league crunchy. It'll make you say, that's so good. It's the new Bo's Chicken Sandwich, just $3.99, only at Bojangles. It's Bo time. Well, it's time to continue on with 3rd quarter action between Gaffney and Spartanburg on Friday Night Rivals, brought to you by Bojangles. And out of the break, the first down play, tossed out near side. Plenty of space across the 45-yard line for Quay Moore. We talk about new faces. There's a name we haven't called yet tonight, but he has a first Franklin Financial first down for Spartan High.
Well, I tell you like it again. Just get it out in a hurry, and then it's one-on-one in the open field. Did a good job to break away from the tackler. Got a good game.
Moore, a junior, listed on the roster sheet as a DB. Showed you what he could do on the offensive side of the ball here. Spartanburg on the ground. Carter up across midfield into Gaffney territory at the 46-yard line. Spartanburg seeming to be in a downhill mode here all of a sudden the last couple of plays to initiate this drive. Momentum perhaps with the Vikings all of a sudden.
Yeah, Drake Carter, who had 62 yards rushing in the first half, and tough up inside. It opens it up a little bit when you swing it out of the edge and can get some good yardage.
Drake Carter again avoids the first tackler. Now dancing around and showing his athletic ability inside the 30. He's to the 20 and will be out of bounds around the 16-yard line. Carter elusive on this carry.
Tell you, tough up inside and doesn't go down on initial contact, and you're going to watch Jay Staggs come in and get a block out on the edge, number 6, that gives him a little bit more room. Just, edge him a little bit there. And got about 10 more yards. So blocking on the perimeter.
Maybe wanted to see something yellow out of the pockets on that. Instead, it's 1st and 10 from the 16 after Carter went 29 yards for a first Franklin Financial first down. This one covered up by Gaffney as Spartanburg, why not, goes right back to Carter again. Nearly 30 yards on the carry and the latest of the first Franklin Financial first downs. Now turned into second down at about 15, and Nathan Johnson, one of the big reasons.
Well, we mentioned it kind of briefly at halftime, but Spartanburg had 7 total yards in the first quarter and ended up with 155 at halftime, so they're able to get in a little bit better rhythm, including one of the 14-play drives we mentioned they didn't score on.
Now he's at 102 yards. Here's Drake Carter in real time after that long carry and then the minimal setback here. So a 100-yard rushing night already for Carter with nearly 6 minutes still remaining in the third quarter. Let's see the results as play is blown back into motion at the 5:52 mark. Second down, 8 to go. Spartanburg can get another first down and right around the 6-yard line to really set up shop here inside the red zone. Fulmer stays inside and stacked up, eventually pushed back at around the 13. That's good for a yard or 2, and here comes another key third down deep in Gaffney territory for the Vikings. And you know what you're thinking if you're a Spartanburg fan, Tom, because the kicking game, even though you have an outstanding kicker, has been touch and go thanks to Gaffney's penetration tonight up front. 17-6 our score, and another impressive drive for Spartanburg that Vikings fans are holding their breath will not end without points, as it did in the closing moments of the first half. This going to make it tougher, though. On the scene immediately is Nathan Johnson and company once again. And big number 90 and his comrades seeing to it that it's 4th and long from the 16 for Spartan High.
I tell you, Nathan Johnson has had a heck of a night. You watch number 90, but also watch Wade, the linebacker. He has been in there as well. Dowdle right next to him. Hamfield's played well. Bullock, those 4 senior linebackers have had a heck of a night.
6 plays in. And traffic being directed right now by Garrett Fulmer. 4th down. Spartanburg needs the 6 for the drive to stay alive. That was off the face mask, it appeared, of the intended target. Over there was Taheem Richardson, who's made a couple of nice acrobatic adjustment catches tonight. He wanted a flag, but that got right in there on the helmet. There were white jerseys all around, and Gaffney will take over once more on downs as this ends up incomplete.
Yeah, it was there. It just hit him right in the face mask, and one of those things, and Gaffney will take over. And Mark Hodge visiting with the young man there.
Taheem Richardson, who's made a couple of remarkable catches already tonight. This one was not to be. Indians ball at the 16 with 4:14 left in the third. Talk about dancing out of an initial tackle. We saw it from Carter for Spartanburg just a moment ago, and some pretty fancy footwork of his own for Tyler Smith of Gaffney there, and he's near a First Franklin Financial first down. Remember, Smith having already rushed for over 100 yards tonight. He was at 94 out of the half, and now after that for Gaffney, a major gain on first down is joining the 100-yard rushing club. Go right back to the ground, and this time Ken Littlejohn, who's across the 30, and that is a First Franklin Financial first down. The combo of Smith and Littlejohn, one more of a bruiser, neither of them massive in size, but one a little more of a hard physical runner, the other speedy, kind of elusive, and you see the job that Littlejohn did there.
Well, and you saw him take his time as well. The penetration came up, he cut back inside, and then he angled to the outside, and he eventually was tackled by J.D. Lawson, one of the captains on defense for Spartanburg, but, you know, bided his time very well. Used the good eyesight to get it up inside, take it to the sideline, get a good gain.
1 yard shy of 70 on 8 carries for Littlejohn, and the official numbers for Tyler Smith, 12 carries he is at 105 yards. Here's motion on the Indians, so that'll back Gaffney up, but those two, a combined over 175 yards tonight for Dan Jones and company.
Well, Gaffney a year ago, 135 on the ground, 211 pass, 347 total. Averaged 33.4 points per game, and that's 6-1 season 1 year ago. And we mentioned the game that we did, one of the best games we had last year was that 30-29 win over Dorman, when Dorman missed a 35-yard field goal at the end.
Yeah, what a thrilling finish between two of the rivals. And if you enjoyed it last year, guess what? We'll have Gaffney and Dorman for you at Dorman High School this go around right here in Spartanburg County a little bit later in the season. Part of a full slate of Friday night rivals. You want to check the My40 website. You want to check the WLOS website. Keep up with everything happening at both stations, and that will help you become aware of what the full slate looks like. We're going to be with you for 11 weeks in a row, all the way to October 29th with high school football, and we hope you'll be able to join us. That penalty against Gaffney a moment ago, 7th time the Indians have been flagged 45 yards. Spartanburg has not been penalized. How often do you see that, and yet the scoreboard split the opposite direction with Gaffney leading it 17-6? Speaks to, I guess, how good the Indians have been in other areas. And I think you got to tip your cap to some degree to the discipline of this Vikings team. This is game one. Usually you're going to see a handful of flags on both sides. Has not really been the case just yet. But Gaffney able to overcome that. Can they do it with this third down play?
Well, Jason, the other thing about Mark Hodge when he was at Chapman is we talked so much about how good they were offensively. And you go back to the 2019 team, they scored 80 in the game once. The least they scored, I think, was like 35. What got lost in the shuffle at Chapman's, they were solid defensively as well.
And a disciplined squad all the way around. Inside, and a helmet is what's bouncing loose on the turf as the ball carrier is handled. And on the scene for Spartanburg, Judah McGimpsey once again. Gaffney was hemmed up and fourth down's coming. We've got an injured Gaffney player at around the 46-yard line once again. You get a good look once more at Tyler Smith, who does have that 100-yard rushing night already. We'll break away while they tend to the injured Gaffney player. Check on his status when we return to Spartanburg. Back to football in the upstate, week 0 as they call it. Call it whatever you want. It's the opening weekend of high school football, and we're certainly glad you have chosen to spend a portion of it with us on Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. 4th down for the Gaffney Indians. Injured player was Gaffney wide receiver Deshaun Corey. He, as has been the case throughout the night, was able to depart seemingly unscathed, left under his own power, which is good news. And this punt for Gaffney of 41 yards off the foot of A.J. Hames will set Spartan High up at the 21-yard line, trailing the Indians by a count of 17-6 late third quarter.
Defense has done the job. You couldn't ask for more here to slow down this Gaffney team that had 250 total yards in the first half, and here in the second half they've had 3 possessions and have not been able to garner much offense at all. So I think it's up to the Spartanburg High School offense to see if they can get something going. You know, we're getting late into the third quarter here with a minute 27 to go.
So the young quarterback Grayson Loftus of the Gaffney Indians introducing himself tonight. Garrett Fulmer on the Spartanburg side of things goes back to work here, and the ball on the ground at the 20-yard line, a mad pile up for it. And we'll see who comes out of there with the football. May take them a moment or two to sort this out. You saw Garrett Fulmer lunging desperately back to the football, and it will belong to the visiting Gaffney Indians. Take another look. Stripped right out of there, able to get in and create the disruption was Johnny Surratt. Surratt, right place, right time, right approach to knock the ball loose. And the Indians recover and take over inside Spartanburg territory at the 20, knocking on the doorstep of the red zone.
Yeah, it might have been Surratt. I think when you look at it, the number of folks had that opportunity. I think it was Dowdle standing up there, but the bottom line is that's a turnover and great field position at the 20.
Yeah, it may have been Surratt that got back on it. You're right, after he caused it by stripping it right out of the ball carrier's hands. On first down, throwing across his body, Loftus to the end zone, nearly picked, but it is incomplete. Javaris Rice, the senior, had it read, had it covered all the way, and he was the closest man to bringing that in. It is incomplete.
It went deep on the first play there, and good inside position. Rice, the corner at 5'9", 136. He's a senior. Good pressure, made him flush, going across his body to throw it. You know, threw that ball into traffic there, and probably fortunate that Rice didn't come up with the football.
4th straight incompletion for Grayson Loftus, who's played well for the Gaffney Indians tonight. Going to bring a man in motion all the way across, and that's Darius Littlejohn. But there's going to be too much air underneath this. So a 5th straight incompletion. And just like that, 3rd down and 10 coming for Gaffney. You know, the eyes were wide after that fumble recovery, Tom, in terms of extending this lead for the crew on the far side. Now they're going to need 3rd down activity of impact here to make it reality.
Good pressure coming off the edge there, and really had to let go of the ball lots before he wanted to, and thus the release high, and it sailed out of bounds. Yep, they made a decision coming up here for Dan Jones in just a bit in a 17-6 game with a minute to go in the 3rd.
Just 1 3rd down conversion to this point for Gaffney. And it'll stay that way. Incomplete, 4th and 10 as the pass too tall near side. With 58 ticks remaining in the 3rd quarter, here is that decision for the Gaffney Indians.
Well, in a 17-6 game, and you like your kicker, who has had success, A.J. Hames, senior coming in, experienced kicker.
Both these like their kicker in terms of range. We've talked about it. That's a luxury that so many of these region games may come right down to the wire this year. In a situation where both these teams, Spartanburg obviously with some things they'll talk about cleaning up on the special team side of things as a whole, but 2 good kickers. This one low though, and it is no good. So the early field goal, that was the first scoring of the night for Gaffney. Since that time, it has been tough sledding in the field goal department.
Well, a little bit high and maybe a little bit late in getting it down, but that's one of the aspects that you worry about. You worry about a lot of things in the first game of the year. But
as we saw earlier on the long drive by Spartanburg, in which no points were scored, the momentum that created for Gaffney. Here's an opportunity to put points on the board off a turnover deep in Spartanburg territory, and the Vikings withstand that moment. So let's see if that translates into offensive success for Spartanburg, as Garrett Fulmer is back out there following the fumble forced by Gaffney's defense a moment ago. This time it's Fulmer to keep it, and he is met at the 20. He was able to use his size to fall forward for a yard or so. Make something positive out of nothing. They're going to give him a couple of yards on this spot, so it's 2nd down and 8.
Called run all the way, and then Landon Bullock, the 5'11", 205-pound senior, able to close that gap and knock him to the turf.
27 and ticking downward remaining in the 3rd quarter. This still just an 11-point football game for all the twists and turns we've experienced tonight. Rising up to grab this one and hand it off to Carter's Fulmer. But among others, Gaffney had Johnny Surratt, who forced the fumble on the last drive for Spartanburg. Right there again. Here's 3rd down.
One thing we've seen on the Gaffney side of things tonight is it's not just one individual. It's a lot of different folks that are involved defensively.
That brings us to the end of the 3rd quarter. Still in doubt between the Indians and the Vikings in Spartanburg. Well, a reminder, tonight's contest brought to you by lead sponsor Bojangles, and they remind you to try the new Bo's Chicken Sandwich. Hand-breaded, bold seasoned, and Big League Crunchy. That's the new Bo's Chicken Sandwich. It's $3.99. Get yours today, only at Bojangles, where it's always Bo time. It is also time for the 12 minutes that will settle this rivalry affair tonight. 4th quarter set to begin in Spartanburg as the visiting Gaffney Indians lead it by a count of 17-6. 3rd down coming from inside their own 25-yard line. Now, having switched sides of the field, Spartanburg working from their field house direction and going toward that bright and beautiful scoreboard. How about that high school scoreboard we're working with tonight down there to our left? The band playing, the lights bright on this Friday night, everything you would want out of a high school football environment. Let's see if this game lives further up to that hype as we roll along. Here is a connection with Andrew Denton. He's got a First Franklin Financial first down, a little more across the 35. Conversion for Spartan High, and the drive continues as they move the chains.
Hey, Danton's a nice-looking player as well. Remember him from a year ago, 5'11", 175, a junior. Go back to the defense for what Spartanburg did in that 3rd quarter. You can see Danton again. 20 total yards in offense for Gaffney in the 3rd quarter on 4 possessions after they had 250 the first half.
Still chasing the point total. See if they can do something with that now. Carter moving rapidly toward the 40-yard line after having to stutter step to begin things. And it's going to end up being the 39-yard line where they spot the football here. Important opening moments of the fourth quarter for a Spartanburg team that could certainly use a program-building win and what would be Mark Hodges' 100th win as a head coach should the Vikings come from behind in the fourth quarter here tonight. And for Gaffney, the first real action against the team on the other side with a regular season win on the line for so many of these new key contributors for the Indians. Can they turn it into Dan Jones' 99th and set the stage for a big showdown next week with Dutch Fork over at the reservation in Cherokee County? As they affectionately know it. You think about the history of these two schools, and Thomas, you think through Spartanburg's history, what a luxury it is for the Vikings that they have their own home. For the longest time they played at Wofford, and what a partnership that was, but they played there at Gibbs Stadium. Before that, Old Snyder Field. And here they are now, a true home for the Spartanburg Vikings. We can't let this night pass us by without talking about the joy that these fans and everybody that's ever been a part of this program experiences by coming to a true home for the Spartanburg Vikings on nights like this. Screenplay on third down, set up to Denton. There is a flag back at the 33-yard line. And while they sort that out, just to cap that, it's one of the things he always talks about, the second-year head coach of the Vikings. Of course, the amazing administration here from Coach Staley, the athletic director, on down. The home of the Vikings being a true home of the Vikings. That's one of the great things to happen in high school sports across the last few years.
And one of the fine facilities, you and I are fortunate enough to do a lot of high school football over the last 8 years or so, and going to a lot of different places. And well, I tell you, between going to Gaffney and going down the line, Spartanburg here and other places, they're just fantastic high school football facilities.
And all the facilities here. If you've been on Doug Lau Court, the basketball facility here, what tremendous job they did building what is a true home in the upstate for this Viking sports program. Softball, baseball, beyond. 17-6 Gaffney. Spartanburg, the beneficiary of the penalty, now going to work with a First Franklin Financial first down at the 43. And yes, there are 9.5 minutes left in this football game, but this sure feels like a drive in which Spartanburg has to have some type of points.
Little toss sweep. We've seen that effective to a certain extent on the outside portion of the football field, but also those linebackers and the defensive backs can come up and make contact as well. First game, fourth quarter, hot day. Let's see how much conditioning comes into this one of the fourth quarter.
And Drake Carter, who they have used extensively tonight, has a 100-yard rushing contest to his credit to start his 2021 season. The outstanding junior back, going to get the pitch again here. Gets out of trouble, works his way into positive yardage at the 35, and he is still up inside the red zone, makes another cut, will not be denied. Touchdown, Carter. The Vikings are right in the thick of it here in the fourth quarter.
Well,
41 yards for Drake Carter.
There is your highlight. Shot for the night right there. Fantastic. It looked like he was going to be tackled for a loss of about 8 or 9 yards, but he got by the linebacker there and then cut it back, and he was able to maneuver around in traffic, get the flow going one way, cut back against it, and able to take it in for a touchdown.
A bit slippery on that particular play. What a job. 22 carries, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The line for the Spartanburg back that you remember, we talked about the comparisons to the old FSU backs, how they can cut, how they can move. Well, all those skills on display from Carter tonight. Now, before the extra point, or the point adding attempt here, Spartanburg obviously perhaps chasing the one that was blocked earlier. Our officials have come over and are in a conversation with Spartanburg head coach Mark Hodge, trying to get this back, the Vikings, to what would be a field goal game. For all the moments at which this thing seemed to be trending toward an expansion of the lead for Gaffney, here is Spartanburg with a 2-point conversion here within a field goal. And here's the try. Back corner, trying to find that athletic ability of Tyheem Richardson, who's made a couple of remarkable catches tonight, but he can't quite bring this one in. The lead has shrunk, though, 17-12 with 8:44 still left to settle it. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Vikings Stadium. Spartanburg now within 5 points of Gaffney. It's a 17-12 game thanks to a recent touchdown by the Vikings. With me are the principal and two of the Vikings cheerleaders here receiving our Bojangles Friday Night Rivals check. Thank you all for hosting us tonight. We love coming here to Viking Stadium. It's beautiful. We love the school spirit. And what a great way to kick off the 2021 Fall Friday Night Rivals season. Jason, Tom, back to you in the booth.
Well, from Superintendent Jeff Stevens, you saw Dr. Vance Jones there, Athletic Director Todd Staley. Big thank you to all those who made tonight possible. Of course, folks on the Gaffney side of things, Superintendent Dana Fall, and Principal Kirsten Acker, along with Terrence Scriven, the AD, so many who make nights like tonight possible. Well, the Vikings with a score and the two-point conversion try coming up just short on a toss into the corner of the end zone, Tom. So we sit at 17-12 with 8:44 to go.
Tell you, pretty resilient effort by the Vikings of Spartanburg. Their defense has really come up big here in the second half to slow down that Gaffney offense, who had those 70 points in the first half, give their offense a chance, and what a run by Carter for the touchdown.
Picked up at the 5. And up across the 25 to the 27-yard line. The return by Gaffney's Tyler Smith. Well, not quite a field goal contest with the two-point conversion try, no good, but a one-possession game nonetheless. I think if you had said to the Spartanburg coaching staff, with the week it's been, and Gaffney rolling in, one of the traditional powers here in the upstate of South Carolina, in a second year for head coach Mark Hodge, that this would be a one-possession going into the fourth quarter, I think they would have embraced it all the way.
And trailing 10-0 in the first quarter of play as well. Missed a couple field goals.
Both these teams being called upon now on what would be a key win on either side, not just in the coaching careers of the two head men patrolling those sidelines and roaming those sidelines, but also in terms of what it would mean to this 2021 season for these programs. And big Damian Coates in there with 8:14 to play.
I was going to say that young man up front at 5'11", 272, young guy, the only sophomore.
Loading up and looking as if he's going to fire away initially, and then showing the patience to wait until he had a man, Deshaun Corey, who was shaken up a bit earlier and had to depart the game, is in the right place at the right time. And how about the decision from Grayson Loftus right here?
Really good. Wanted to go out on the edge initially. It wasn't there. And look at this catch. It was behind him. He had to slam on the brakes and go back the other way. Able to cradle it, get his hands underneath the ball. So good job initially by the quarterback, Loftus, and outstanding plays you see there by Corey.
First Franklin Financial first down. Last stat sheet has a nugget on it. Worth mentioning after this run by Tyler Smith, who is finally out in Spartanburg territory at the 49. Tom, you know what the total yardage split is, total offense between these two teams? 278 yards for Spartanburg, 270 yards for Gaffney when we came back from our most recent break. It does not get much more even, and it's the reason We're locked into this tight football game down to the wire. Second down, Gaffney at the Spartanburg 49. Indians only need about 4. Call it a long 3 on the scoreboard. Littlejohn, second effort may be enough. Ken Littlejohn keeps those wheels churning. And he has what would appear to be another First Franklin Financial first down. If you're wondering about how that breaks down, 138 rushing yards for Spartanburg, 140 passing. Can you say balance? 185 rushing yards for Gaffney, 85 passing yards for the Indians. Tyler Smith, 117-yard night rushing. Drake Carter, 152-yard night rushing. A couple 100-yard backs, one on each side. We got a player down at the 47. And it looks as if it's an injured Viking that we'll check on the other side. Fourth quarter, intense times here on Friday Night Rivals. Well, according to our amazing statistician, Tim Amos, best diagnosis over here, looks like a couple of players may be battling through, working through at an Indian and a Viking down with some of the things you get this early in the season, Tom. Looks to be perhaps a little more of those situations where players are cramping up on this warm night with not a lot of time under your belt just yet. You hope it's nothing more than that for sure, but slowly working his way off. For the Spartanburg Vikings, that means at least everyone we've seen tonight and has been able to do exactly what Spartanburg's Duncan Dawkins is doing right now, and that's even if it is a little slower on the pace. Work his way without assistance to the sideline, which is a good sign.
Yeah, he's opposite of Damian Coates. We talked about a sophomore who made a nice play a moment ago. Dawkins at 5'8", 255, junior defensive end, and kind of all been there before. But man, there's very painful.
Absolutely. And the Spartanburg Vikings back out onto the field, trying to slow a Gaffney offense, hoping to reestablish a lead of more than one possession. Working our way into the depths of this one. It's 7:17 to play. May not be a region game, may not have playoff implications on the line, but don't tell that to the fans here. Don't tell that to the viewers. Don't tell that to these teams. They're giving it everything they have. What else would you expect from this historic rivalry in the upstate of the Palmetto State? And here is Littlejohn again. Ken Littlejohn found a seam and took it home to extend the Gaffney lead. Littlejohn on the doorstep of being the second 100-yard back for Gaffney tonight.
Took that ball up inside, then he's able to shoot it to the outside, and once he got behind the defensive back there, linebacker, the acceleration, he pulled away for the touchdown. Boy, nice read, good cut, and not going to catch him.
Take another look at the acceleration. Gaffney team used so many weapons at the wide receiver position a year ago, and much of the load carried tonight by a combo of backs that are back. And Ken Littlejohn, number 11, Tyler Smith, number 10. And the extra point true for A.J. Ames, as Gaffney, just as quickly as they saw the lead dissipate, has has reestablished it at 12 points with 6:57 to go.
Yeah, we were talking about those first 4 possessions for Gaffney in the second half, unable to generate much offense at all, but then they were able to break one there and take it the distance for the touchdown. A great response. Once he got to that point, you knew he was going to pull away and take a look back and take it to the end zone for a touchdown. So after everything that Spartanburg had done to get themselves within 17-12, good response by Gaffney to widen it back out to 12 under 7 minutes to go here in the ball game.
Keeping that Gaffney band, those cheerleaders busy on the far side after the latest of the Gaffney scores. We did have a Spartanburg player a bit shaken up there on that last play, Tom, and Murphy Epps, one of the key pieces to that Spartanburg defensive line. It's good to see the senior working his way near side.
6 feet, 351, the nose tackle.
All right, numbers in. We talked about the 2 100-yard backs for the Indians tonight. 125 yards having already been secured by Tyler Smith, and that's 118 now on 16 carries for Ken Littlejohn with that latest touchdown. So here they are, having both eclipsed the 100-yard mark for Gaffney on the ground tonight.
Well, we also talked early on about that offensive line for the Gaffney Indians. I mean, they are huge up front. 265, 285, 275, 330, and 260 from tackle to tackle.
Well, let's give them a little love. Hunter Turner, I think number 77. He's probably going to play at least a D2 or an FCS level at the next level, maybe beyond. They talk about what good feet the senior has on one end of that offensive line. TJ Edrington on the other, another of the seniors. The Citadel commitment, Sawyer Whitman, who wears number 66 and is a key piece of that offensive line. Joseph Jordan, the junior, who just moved in from Memphis, Tennessee. He's their biggest offensive lineman in terms of size, but he's learning the program as he wasn't even with them in the spring, just in the summer. And Johan Aragon, who is in at the center position. They don't have their center from a year ago, Ethan Wood, just yet. They expect him to miss the first few games, so there's a chance this offensive line gets even stronger as they go into the depths of the year, and that's good news when you have the kind of backs behind them we've seen tonight, Tom.
I tell you, and when you can rotate those two guys and a little bit of a break for Littlejohn and Smith and get a breather occasionally, I mean, a lot to look forward to in that regard.
Not a tremendous amount of depth, the coaching staff tells us, on that line, so they're hoping they can keep everybody healthy, because certainly, as is always the case, whether it be Gaffney, whether it be Spartanburg, whoever, one of the key units. Return up across the 15 and a big lick to end it. I believe that looked to be Caliber Huey who was there, who's done such work at the wide receiver position tonight. A little slow to get up. The Spartanburg return man. Let's take another look at this collision.
Staggs had a good return earlier. Pretty good combination there. The Dowdle as well, helping make that sandwich play there. Knocked him hard to the turf. You know, Jason, when you look back at it with Gaffney, they've been able to score in a hurry. 156, the drive time 156, 128, 256, and this was 148, 6 plays, 74 yards. And ironically, Littlejohn 41, Carter went 41.
Another look at some of those Gaffney defenders, and certainly all faults, regardless of what colors the fans may be wearing, what uniforms they may be supporting tonight. Everybody hoping to see Jay Staggs up quickly, and there's Jay Watson Staggs. Looks like he's going to be helped to his feet as we speak, so good sign. He's calling for his helmet back, and we hope to see him back very soon as well.
You gave those numbers a couple of minutes ago about how level it was in terms of total yards between the two teams, and you think back to what it was at the end of the first quarter with 100 plus for Gaffney and 7 total yards. That's it in the first quarter for Spartanburg, and how they improved dramatically offensively throughout the course of the ball game. Their defense was able to shut down Gaffney for the most part here in the second half until that touchdown drive.
And there is Jay Watson Staggs, the return man. Great pictures to see him working his way off. Also has a trio of catches tonight at around 10 yards. Perhaps he will factor in moving forward for Spartanburg. We'll see. Vikings take over. They're down 12 with 6:49 to go. And Fulmer Looking deep over the middle and trying to reel that in for Gaffney was Eddie Tate McDowell, one of the returning starters in the secondary. He was in the right spot, but just could not quite corral it.
Taking a shot deep there that time, trying to get some one-on-one coverage. And talked again about those linebackers for Gaffney, but also their secondary. Boy, he'll look back on that one and wish he could have it back. But with Eddie Tate McDowell and Marquise Bradley and Javari Bonner and Trey Smith over there as well, been pretty good.
A little bit of a pause to reset the play clock before this second down and 10 effort for Spartanburg from just inside the 20-yard line. Boy, good look at Eddie Tate McDowell right there. Posing figure, and Gaffney loading him up on the line right now. Got 3 with a hand down on the ground and 4 that look to be coming. We'll see if they end up backing Philip Wade out of there. Not the case. And Spartanburg trying to run to the other side that Wade wasn't occupying. With Jay Davenport, will turn it into a positive gain.
Yeah, you got the 3 down linemen, then you walk up one of the linebackers and from either side.
Ball right, almost in the middle of the field between the hashes. So wins for Spartanburg both ways on this 3rd down and 6. Vikings 3 of 9 in this 3rd down scenario. Make it 4 of 10. And another of the memorable catches tonight for Tyheem Richardson, the senior.
Tell you what, he's had 2 great catches where he had to climb the ladder. That one you knew you're going to get tagged, and young man caught the ball and got hit hard and held on to it.
We've seen Spartanburg go on extended methodical drives. Who can forget the 14-play drive earlier tonight? Yes, it ended in the field goal block, but they've shown the ability to march down the field, needing to do that here. The first Franklin Financial first down play. Going to see Fulmer load up, and this time it is picked. Eddie Tate McDowell gets a second opportunity and makes it count.
Yeah, the free safety, he came over. The ball hung up just a little bit. Great closing speed at 5'10", 180, the senior, 30 tackles last year, including an interception, gets his first one of the year.
That may be, depending upon what Gaffney can do with the football here, the moment you remember that the Indians were able to put it together. We'll see, but just played a little center field there and got the job done, did Eddie Tate McDowell.
And you saw Fulmer on the back pedal there, pressure coming up front, and had to throw it off his back foot. He had him open, but just couldn't get enough air underneath it. It hung up too long, and then able to come in and make the angle cut and catch it.
Stranger things have happened with 5:40 to go, but if Gaffney can eat up some time and put further points on the board here, would make it real tough on the Spartanburg Vikings. You say this about Spartanburg, though, without their leader at the quarterback position, Raheem Jeter, Garrett Fulmer and company, making this interesting all the way into the 4th. We'll see if the Spartanburg defense can come up with one more stop to give the Vikings a chance with still 5 and change remaining. They do need a couple of scores at this point. Gaffney's lead at 24-12.
I think a lot of people, Jason, wondered how this game would go when you're depending so much on Raheem Jeter and the big numbers that he put up last year and just the sheer size and what he brings to the table. But I tell you, Fulmer's done a nice job forced into the situation having to play quarterback tonight.
They believe, fully believe, that Raheem Jeter is going to be ready for region play when it counts. They're just in contest right now, Tom, that frankly, the non-region games, because no point system in South Carolina anymore in terms of playoff positioning and on down the line, makes this, from a playoff standpoint, don't tell the fans it means less, but from a playoff standpoint, your region now carries so much of the heavy weight in the outcome of your season that you want to make sure he's 100% healthy when you get to those contests.
Well, and you think about, too, that with the old 2019, when you had region play, you had 8 teams. Now you only have 4 conference games. You got to go find 6 non-conference games to play.
Bouncing it out, Gaffney keeps it on the ground, dancing out of bounds over there is Tyler Smith, maybe a yard. That's about all. So here is Spartanburg. And that's going to stop the clock ahead of the 4th down play as he worked his way out of bounds with 3:59 left to go. Break for the Vikings right there as they may be poised to get the football back. That they were able to get Tyler Smith out of bounds.
Tell you, they've really done a good job in the second half. That 41-yard run for the touchdown was the only offensive possession that Gaffney has scored on here in the second half.
And underscore that one more time. I'll go back to it. It's important that the clock was stopped right there ahead of the fourth down play, because the rest, the full extent of the play clock could have come off there, leaving Spartanburg far less time. Vikings need a couple scores. We'll have the balance of this one when you return to Spartanburg on Friday Night Rivals. Well, it's not Friday night without a few grass stains, in this case turf marks, in the new era, right? When you have fine facilities like this. Nobody's jersey perhaps dirtier tonight than Gaffney's number 10. He has been busy. The senior running back, Tyler Smith. He is our Henson's, Mulch, and More dirty jersey of the game.
I mean, takes it up the middle and swing pass and shows the strength and power and outstanding combination. Been a big factor in the ballgame tonight.
Yeah, and especially, Tom, whenever you are wearing those road whites, right? You got to make sure you bring those back dirty. Let them know you were involved in the contest. And again, our dirty jersey of the game brought to you by our friends at Henson's, Mulch, and More. The numbers tonight for Gaffney's number 10 white, 18 for 127 yards and a touchdown. And this is bobbled up eventually into the hands of one of those white visiting jerseys. And finally rushed out after gathering it together is Keyshawn Hemphill. And that's the exclamation point on a big night for Keyshawn Hemphill of the Indians.
Tell you what, though, Richardson almost made another spectacular catch. Goes up, knocked out of there, and up into the air, and good concentration by Hemphill. The Eddie Tate McDowell was the young man that got in there to knock it up into the air. And tell you, Richardson almost made a great catch, but the bottom line is kept that's the old tip drill coming into play there as he comes up with the INT.
Tyheem Richardson had been able to bring that all the way into the body. You're looking at Spartanburg threatening with just under 4 to play and down less than the maximum of 2 scores. Instead, ball's got to bounce your way from time to time, right? It did, right into the hands of Keyshawn Hemphill, and the Indian offense back out there trying to salt away a 1-0 start to the season. Two outstanding programs. We talked about their history. The future very bright this year as well, though, Tom. You're seeing some things on both sides of the ball tonight that give you hope. We may be looking at a couple of playoff teams before all said and done.
Well, that's game 1, and you always worry about that and what's going to go on, what kind of conditioning and everything else that goes on around the scenes, health-wise and everything else, and just a chance to get to play before, good big crowd here tonight, and hopefully you'll get some things you can work on, and just you've had some scrimmages, but this is under the light what it counts.
They're going to have to work on some things quick, especially the Indians. They've got the state champions coming in next Friday night at home in a game added last moment. Well, this is the latest moment inside the 10 for Tyler Smith, number 10, and the stat sheet just keeps on looking better and better for the Gaffney back. He has the Indians poised perhaps to add a little more, and definitely in position to salt it away.
Hey, there's that misdirection, and then with the flow going one way, cuts back across it. And if you don't make that tackle and the contact within a couple of yards, that's what can happen.
that first Franklin Financial first down, now making it 168 yards rushing on the night for our Henson's Mulch and More Dirty Jersey of the Game honoree a few moments ago. He's continuing to provide the highlight clips for Gaffney. Dipping under 3 minutes to go. And diving across the goal line to perhaps seal it. Another touchdown for Tyler Smith, putting him up over 170 yards tonight. And Gaffney beginning to breathe a little easier on the far sideline now. The lead having grown to 30-12.
Well, just got to turn around, hand it back in, and again, the flow going to the left, and then cuts back right, and accelerates up inside in a lane that's provided by the offensive line to get into the end zone for the touchdown.
Well, it's one of the best things, and he's done some really good things. Grayson Loftus, the new quarterback of the Gaffney Indians tonight. One of the best things he's done, turn hand to number 10, turn hand to number 11. What a night for Ken Littlejohn and for Tyler Smith, who has the latest Gaffney touchdown. A.J. Haynes, true once again, as the southpaw kicker, the left-footed kicker, ends up punching that through. Always a special place in your heart for those very unique. Yeah, you're left-handed. Very unique moments.
17%.
You see that. A.J. Haynes. And hey, but how about the work that Gabe Lee has done tonight? You talked about the holding a little bit earlier for the Gaffney Indians. And I think yes, we're going to see more of it in the early stages of this game, Tom. But when the overall narrative of this game is laid out there, special teams, again, going to be something folks are talking about tomorrow morning in relation to this one.
Yeah, it was 17-12 with 8:44 to go after Carter's 41-yard run. But then Littlejohn with his 41-yard run able to widen it out. Back-to-back interceptions. Eddie Tate McDowell and Hemphill able to pick those off after Spartanburg had scored on that touchdown run by Carter. So Gaffney able to widen it out. Maybe a little bit deceiving at 31-12, but they've done a lot of really good things here tonight. And
you have to love the backs. You have to love the way the offensive line played, and that man's going to get his center back at some point to anchor that offensive line, Ethan Wood. You have to love what you've seen when needed through the air. And special teams, again, that third phase of the game that coaches talk so much about, good for Gaffney tonight. We'll see how it translates moving forward, as the stat sheet now reveals 395 yards of total offense for the Indians, right at 300, 299 for Spartan High. It's going to be on, you talk about 99.
Yeah.
He's going to be sitting on 99 wins. Dan Jones, the 12-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians, trying to get number 100. What a memorable win that would be if he were to end Dutch Fork streak next week. Gathered up at the 8-yard line. And that's where Spartanburg will take over. 2:46 left to play. But when you're in that rare air, we talked about it. We talked about all the great coaches here, Doc Davis, and the connections with Mark Hodge, and the friendship with that continues and remains with Chris Miller on the other side. But Dan Jones going into the likes of Bob Prevette, A.L. Curtis. You talked about Phil Strickland a little bit. Joe Montgomery, who did such good things over the years at Gaffney. But Prevette, Curtis, Montgomery, you go on down the line there. You again, Strickland, a guy that Coach Jones coached under. You talked about what an honor it was going to be when his name is alongside those. You know, you don't play for personal accomplishments, because the statement he made, the old football adage, just a lot more about the Jimmies and Joes than it is the X's and O's so often. Gives credit to everybody around him, but certainly it's going to be a special honor when that moment does come. And from the looks of this Gaffney team, I think it's a safe assumption they'll pick up at least one more win somewhere along the way and get him to 100.
Well, and you think about that, and this is where, I don't know, Elias Sports Bureau or somebody comes into play here, but how many players actually played at a school and then coached and got 100 wins?
Yeah, played in this rivalry, understands it, understands the expectations at Gaffney. And here's what he said. I thought it was one of the great quotes from Coach Dan Jones. He said, if the expectations weren't so high, it probably wouldn't be near as fun to coach. That's why he loves being at a place like that. And their pride, their tradition, their storied history continuing to be built upon. Who knows what this season holds. For Spartanburg, they go to work here second down. It's just going to have to be covered up this go-round for Garrett Fulmer. They are going to get Raheem Jeter back. They finished strong at the end of the year last year, Tom. Plenty to build on for Spartanburg. This is not a full understanding of how good this team's going to grow. Very high ceiling for the Vikings this year.
Well, they've got Malden on the road, Hillcrest. They're going to play Boiling Springs on the road, Clover as well. And you mentioned they've got Dutch Fork on the road. And then they're going to play at Burns, Wade Hampton here at Riverside, and at Dorman. The final 4 games there are the region games.
Screen set up. It's good for positive yardage up across the 20 to around the 23. So game clock under 90 seconds now as Gaffney has pulled away toward the end of this one.
Jason, a note about Gaffney. They've got Dutch Fork we talked about. They're going to go to Rock Hill. They've got Mallard Creek out of the Charlotte area, which is a power in North Carolina. They're going to play Burns at home as well. Boiling Springs away, Dorman away, Nation, Fort Clover, and Fort Mill. So they're still going to get Burns and Dorman and Mallard Creek and Rock Hill and Dutch Fork coming up on the Gaffney schedule.
And that Dorman game on October 8th from Dorman High School going to be right here on My40 as a part of our Bojangles Friday Night Rivals package. 1 of 3 on 4th down tonight for the Spartanburg Vikings, and timeout's going to be called for with 39 seconds to go. And you know what this reminds you of, Tom? It's an early season contest. These are young teams. These are teachable moments.
They are, and it was just such an extraordinary year last year. And if folks didn't hear your interview with Coach Hodge talking about what it's been like, it's not really the second year and everything that went on last year. You know the track record. Here as a defensive coordinator, went to Carolina for a couple of years in Carolina High, and then ended up with that incredible run at Chapman, 82-26. At one point, won 47 of 49 games. Championships in 16 and 19 against Dillon, lost to Dillon 2017. You go back to Colton Bailey and Michaela Colasero.
Does the name Debo Samuel ring a bell from the world of football?
He'll get it going
under the
here.
tutelage of Mark Hodge. You're exactly right. It's just a matter of time. And with the support he has from the Spartanburg fan base in the history, we talked about Steve Davis's involvement, and Abe Tollison, so prevalent in Spartanburg history, their involvement, and all the familiar names you've heard throughout the course of the night. A matter of time, and who knows what this year looks like once all the pieces are in place. Gaffney takes over, 25 seconds remaining. And when you reflect upon this one for Gaffney, what does this win mean to start the season?
I think it's a really good one for him. You know, Spartanburg didn't play last year. They have a tremendous history in series-wise, depending on who you want to believe. It's close in about 100 games or so, point-wise, wins-wise as well. It's been that kind of a series dating back a long time anyway. And
anytime you've got discrepancy in who's won how many games in a series, you know how tight the series is.
It's like at the college level, all depends on what sports information director wants to tell you.
Which game notes are you going to yield to? 25 seconds, a knee taken as Gaffney attempts to put the finishing touches on what will be a 31-12 victory. 99th win for Dan Jones in 12 seasons. Won that state championship right out of the gate, but it's been a while for Gaffney Indians. When you look back to 2012, when you consider that a school boasts 17 of them. So you know what the expectations are. We'll see what growth these programs experience along the way. Final ticks off the game clock. Gaffney starts 2021 1-0 with a 31-12 win over its rival from Spartanburg. Non-region game, yes. Important victory nonetheless. And Gaffney doing enough in the fourth quarter to pull away.
Well, a chance to kind of get back. We'll hope it plays out health-wise, but from a normal standpoint, last year really didn't know, and there were so many situations that were involved, but at least a chance to, here in late August, to get a chance to get it started in week 0.
Well, the ultimate display of sportsmanship as the teams meet midfield. We'll come back with the Bojangles Friday Night Rivals Champions Trophy presentation right after